A Jedi temple burns. Flames reach toward alien skies as screams echo through corridors that once rang with meditation chants. A crimson lightsaber ignites in the darkness, held by hands that once defended the innocent. Eyes that shone with compassion now burn with Sith gold, corrupted by ancient power. Across the galaxy, a brother strikes down a brother, and the woman who loved them both watches in horror as everything she cherished turns to ash. This is not a tale of external conquest. This is the story of the galaxy's greatest heroes becoming its darkest monsters. 4,000 years before the Empire, before Darth Vader's fall, before Palpatine's deception, there was another tragedy, a corruption so complete, so devastating, that it nearly destroyed the Republic itself. Two brilliant Jedi, one seeking knowledge, the other seeking justice. Both believing themselves strong enough to resist the darkness. Both wrong. The ancient Sith Lords planned this for a millennium, waiting patiently across centuries for the perfect moment, the perfect vessels. And when that moment came, the galaxy trembled. What secret did they discover in forgotten tombs? What prophecy drove them to embrace the very evil they swore to destroy? And how did the Jedi Order, at the height of its power, fail to see the corruption growing within its own ranks? Tonight we journey into the Great Sith War, where love became hatred, knowledge became corruption, and the light itself cast the longest shadows. Hey everyone, before we begin this epic tale, I need to mention something. About 71% of you watching right now haven't subscribed yet. If you enjoy these deep dives into Star Wars lore, hitting that subscribe button truly helps this channel grow and bring you more stories like this. Also, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing our community span across the galaxy, quite literally. Now settle in, dim those lights, get comfortable under your blanket, and let's travel back 4,000 years to witness the fall of legends. Picture Coruscant, 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire. Not the industrial megalopolis choked with pollution and crime, but a jewel of civilization gleaming beneath clear skies. The Jedi Temple rises from the planetary surface like a crown of light, its 5 spires touching the clouds, each one representing a core principle of the Jedi Order. Thousands of Jedi call this place home. Masters, knights, Padawans, and younglings, all connected through the Force, all dedicated to serving the galaxy. Walk through the temple's meditation gardens in the early morning. Exotic flowers from 100 worlds perfume the air. Water fountains sculpted by ancient Jedi artisans create melodies that harmonize with the Force itself. Masters sit cross-legged on polished stone, their minds touching distant stars, feeling the rhythmic pulse of life across the galaxy. This is the Jedi Order at its absolute zenith, powerful beyond measure, respected without question, guardians of peace for over 1,000 years. The archives stretch deeper than most beings realize. 20 levels descending into Coruscant's foundation, each one housing holocrons, ancient texts, and artifacts spanning 50,000 years of galactic history. Jedi archivists, some who have dedicated entire lifetimes to cataloging wisdom, move between towering shelves with reverent care. Every question the galaxy might ask has an answer here. Every mystery ever pondered has been explored and documented, or so they believe. But there is something these archivists do not fully comprehend. In the deepest, most restricted levels, sealed behind Force wards and biometric locks, lie texts the Jedi Council deemed too dangerous for general study. Sith holocrons captured during ancient wars, manuscripts detailing techniques the Jedi refused to practice, knowledge of the dark side preserved not for use but for understanding. To know your enemy, you must study them. But studying the dark side is like staring into an abyss that stares back. The Republic itself flourishes during this golden age, 1,000 years have passed since the Great Hyperspace War, when the Sith Empire last threatened galactic peace. An entire millennium of prosperity. Member worlds number in the thousands. Trade routes connect the core worlds to the Outer Rim territories in an intricate web of commerce and cultural exchange. Children born in this era know war only as ancient history, something their grandparents speak of in hushed tones. But peace breeds complacency. The Jedi Council, composed of the wisest masters the Order can offer, has grown comfortable in their role. They mediate disputes, offer guidance to the Senate, train new generations in the ways of the Force. Routine has replaced vigilance. When you have not faced true darkness for 1,000 years, you begin to forget what darkness looks like. You forget how it moves, how it thinks, how it corrupts. In this time of unprecedented peace, in this moment of absolute Jedi supremacy, there are whispers, quiet conversations in the archives, late at night. Young Jedi scholars asking questions that make their masters uncomfortable. Why do we seal knowledge instead of mastering it? If we truly understand the Force, shouldn't we study all its aspects, the light and the shadow? These questions are not asked with malicious intent. They come from brilliant minds seeking deeper understanding, from hearts that believe knowledge itself cannot be evil. Among these questioners is a Jedi whose name will echo through history for 4 millennia. Exar Kun, brilliant, charismatic, hungry for knowledge with an intensity that borders on obsession. His master, Vodo Siosk Baez, recognizes both the potential and the danger in his student. Kun's understanding of the Force surpasses Jedi twice his age. His lightsaber technique is flawless. His grasp of Jedi philosophy is comprehensive. But there is something else, something his master cannot quite name. A restlessness, a certainty that the Jedi Order is holding back, that they possess knowledge they refuse to share. On Coruscant, in the training halls, another young Jedi distinguishes himself. Ulic Qel-Droma, where Exar Khan pursues knowledge, Ulic pursues justice. He is everything a Jedi should be. Brave, compassionate, skilled in both diplomacy and combat. His younger brother Kay follows in his footsteps, looking up to Ulic with absolute admiration. Together they represent the Jedi ideal. Brothers in blood and in the Force, both dedicated to protecting the innocent, both trained by one of the Order's most respected masters. Master Arca Jeth, a name spoken with reverence in Jedi circles. His wisdom guided countless Padawans to knighthood. His presence brings calm to the most chaotic situations. He embodies everything the Jedi strive to be: patient, thoughtful, powerful, yet humble. Under his guidance, Ulic and Kay have grown into exceptional Jedi, and there is another in his care. Nomi Sunrider, a widow who came to the Jedi later in life, carrying the grief of her husband's murder. She found purpose in the Force, discovered abilities even she did not know she possessed. Her connection to battle meditation, the rare ability to influence the outcome of conflicts through the Force, marks her as someone special. These Jedi, and hundreds like them, move through the temple with purpose and peace. They do not know that ancient eyes watch them from beyond death. They cannot feel the patient malevolence that has waited 1,000 years for this exact moment. They do not understand that peace itself has become their greatest vulnerability. In the Jedi Council chambers, a circular room at the temple's highest point, the Council convenes regularly. Holographic projections show the galaxy in all its vastness. Reports flow in from Jedi stationed across known space, minor disputes resolved, diplomatic missions successful, pirates apprehended, smuggling rings disrupted. The ordinary challenges of maintaining galactic peace, nothing to suggest the approaching storm. But if those council members meditated deeply enough, if they opened themselves completely to the Force, they might feel it, a disturbance like distant thunder on the horizon. a ripple of darkness spreading from forgotten worlds. The Sith are not truly gone. They never were. They simply learned patience. They learned that empires can be rebuilt from shadows, that power can be preserved in ways the Jedi never imagined. On the Outer Rim, on a world called Onderon, something is waking up. A tomb sealed for 400 years begins to pulse with dark side energy. Freedon Nad, once a Jedi, then a Sith Lord, has been dead for centuries. But death is not the end for those who master certain techniques. His spirit lingers, waiting, watching, preparing. Onderon's current crisis, a civil war between city dwellers and beast riders, is not random political upheaval. It is orchestrated. Every conflict, every death, every drop of spilled blood feeds the darkness Nad has carefully cultivated. The Jedi do not see the connection yet. They view Onderon as a local problem requiring local solutions, perhaps meditation, perhaps diplomatic intervention. They do not realize they are being drawn into a web spun across centuries. They do not know that every step they take toward Onderon is a step exactly as planned by minds far older and far more patient than theirs. This is the galaxy before the fall, before temples burned, before brothers became enemies, before the greatest Jedi of their generation transformed into the greatest Sith Lords in 1,000 years. This is the moment of perfect balance, where the scale sits level before it tips toward darkness. The chroniclers of this age, the historians who will record these events, do not yet know they are documenting a tragedy. They still believe they are writing a story of Jedi triumph, of Republic strength, of continued peace. They cannot imagine that within a few short years their comfortable galaxy will be torn apart by war, that the Jedi they admire will become the monsters they fear, that everything they trust will be revealed as illusion. The Force flows through the temple, through Coruscant, through the entire galaxy. Light and dark, always in balance, always in tension. But that balance is about to shatter. Ancient powers are moving. Prophecies written in blood and shadow are about to be fulfilled, and the Jedi Order, in all its wisdom and strength, is completely unprepared for what comes next. The Great Sith War is not approaching. It has already begun. The Jedi just do not know it yet. Onderon sits on the edge of civilized space, a world where civilization and savagery exist in constant tension. The planet's primary city, Izis, rises behind massive walls constructed thousands of years ago. These walls were not built to repel armies, but to keep out something far more primal. The beasts of Onderon, creatures evolved on the nearby moon Dexon, a place so savage that survival itself becomes an achievement. When Dexon's orbit brings it close enough to Onderon, the beasts migrate across the temporary atmospheric bridge between moon and planet. For millennia, this migration has shaped Onderonian culture. But the current conflict tearing Onderon apart has nothing to do with beasts, not directly. At least, the royal family, entrenched behind Izis walls, wages war against the beast riders, Onderonians who chose to live beyond the city, to tame the creatures rather than hide from them. On the surface, this appears to be a standard political dispute, the wealthy urban elite versus the rural warriors, ancient cultural divisions erupting into violence. The Republic Senate receives reports of skirmishes, border conflicts, civilian casualties. They classify it as an internal matter, something for diplomats to resolve through negotiation and compromise. Master Arca Jeth reads these reports differently. He sits in his chambers within the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, analyzing every detail, every inconsistency. The pattern of violence does not match typical civil war progression. Conflicts escalate too quickly, then pause for no strategic reason. Battle tactics show sophistication beyond what either side should possess. And there is something else, something he feels rather than reads. A disturbance in the Force emanating from Onderon, faint but persistent, like a fever that refuses to break. He calls his 3 students to him. Ulic and Qel-Droma arrive first, their contrasting personalities immediately evident. Ulic carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who has never truly failed at anything. His connection to the Force is strong, his lightsaber technique precise, his strategic mind sharp. Qel, slightly younger, possesses a different kind of brilliance. Where Ulic excels in combat and leadership, Qel's talents lie in technical understanding. He can disassemble and repair any technology, can interface with droids and computers with an intuitive ease that borders on Force sensitivity itself. Nomi Sunrider enters last, her presence immediately calming the room. She has only been a Jedi for a few years, but her power rivals Knights who have trained since childhood. Her path to the Order was born from tragedy. Her husband, a freight hauler, was murdered by criminals seeking to steal his cargo of Adigan crystals. In defending herself, Nomi discovered she could touch the Force, could channel its power without any formal training. Master Arca sensed her potential and brought her into the Order. She carries her grief with dignity, has transformed her loss into purpose. Master Arca spreads the holographic reports before them. The planetary map of Onderon rotates slowly, red markers indicating conflict zones. The Senate believes this to be a political dispute, he says, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of Jedi wisdom. But I sense something darker at work. The Force itself recoils from Onderon, as if the planet carries a wound that refuses to heal. Ulic studies the tactical data, his mind already formulating strategies. If the violence is being manipulated, we need to identify the source, cut off the head, and the body will fall. Query examines the technical specifications of weapons being used. Some of these armaments are centuries old, not reproductions, but actual ancient technology somehow still functional. That's not just unusual, Master. That's impossible without significant Force intervention. Nomi closes her eyes, reaching out through the Force toward distant Onderon. What she feels makes her gasp. Darkness, yes, but not the chaotic evil of common criminals, or the cold calculation of Sith teachings. This is something else, personal, intimate, ancient. There's a presence there, she whispers. It's been there for a very long time. It's watching, waiting, wanting something. Master Arca nods slowly. 400 years ago, a dark Jedi named Freedon Nad conquered Onderon. He ruled for decades, spreading his corruption through the royal bloodline. When he finally died, the Jedi believed his influence ended with him. But what if we were wrong? What if his death was not an ending, but a transformation? The implications settle over the 3 Jedi like a cold wind. Sith spirits are rare, require tremendous power and knowledge to achieve. The technique was thought lost with the ancient Sith Empire. But if Freedon Nad somehow preserved his consciousness beyond death, if he has been influencing Onderon for centuries, then this civil war is not about politics at all. It is about something far more sinister. You want us to investigate, Ulic says, statement rather than question. His eagerness is barely contained. This is exactly the kind of challenge he craves. A mystery to unravel, a threat to neutralize, an opportunity to prove himself worthy of his master's faith. I want you to be careful, Master Arca corrects. The dark side is not an enemy you can defeat with a lightsaber. It corrupts subtly, twists your intentions, makes you believe you are still serving the light even as you embrace shadow. If Freedon Nad's spirit truly lingers on Onderon, his 4 centuries of patience have been in service of some greater plan. You will be walking into a trap that has been prepared for lifetimes. Qel shifts uncomfortably. Unlike his brother, he does not rush toward danger with enthusiasm. He calculates risks, considers possibilities, prepares contingencies. If the threat is that significant, perhaps we should request reinforcements, a full Jedi task force rather than just the 3 of us. But Master Arca shakes his head. The Force is guiding us to send precisely you three. I do not fully understand why, but I trust in its wisdom. Ulic, your strength and leadership will be crucial. K, your technical mind will see connections others miss. And Nomi, your unique connection to battle meditation may prove the key to unraveling whatever darkness waits on Onderon. Nomi feels the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She has been a Jedi for such a short time. Her training is incomplete. Her understanding of the Force still developing. Yet Master Arca trusts her with this mission. She will not disappoint him. The three Jedi spend the next several days preparing. They study everything the archives contain about Onderon, about Freedom Nad, about ancient Sith techniques. The information is fragmentary, incomplete. Much knowledge was lost during the Great Hyperspace War a millennium ago. What remains are warnings, cautionary tales about the seductive nature of dark-side power. Ulic finds himself drawn to one particular holocron, a recording made by a Jedi who fought in those ancient conflicts. The Jedi speaks of facing Sith Lords who could drain life essence from entire populations, who could manipulate emotions across star systems, who could preserve their consciousness in objects, in locations, even in living beings. The greatest danger, the ancient Jedi warns, is believing you are immune to corruption. The moment you think you are too strong to fall is the moment you have already begun falling. The words should serve as a warning. Instead, Ulic feels only confidence. He is not some ancient Jedi unprepared for Sith deception. He has been trained by Master Arca himself, has studied every technique, every philosophy. He will face whatever darkness waits on Onderon and emerge victorious. How could he not? As their departure approaches, Master Arca gathers them one final time. He places his hands on each of their shoulders, a gesture of blessing and farewell. Remember, he tells them, the dark side offers power. Yes, but it is borrowed power. It will demand payment, and the cost is always higher than you expect. Stay true to the light, trust in each other, and return to me safely. They promise they will. They believe they will. None of them can imagine how profoundly wrong that belief will prove to be. Their ship lifts from Coruscant's surface, accelerating toward the hyperspace lanes that will carry them to Onderon. Behind them, the Jedi Temple gleams in the sunlight, a beacon of peace and wisdom. Ahead lies a world wrapped in shadow, where an ancient evil has been waiting 400 years for exactly this moment. For these three Jedi, for the plan that began centuries before they were born to finally reach fruition, the call to adventure has been answered. The first steps into darkness have been taken, and the galaxy, unknowing and unprepared, moves closer to war. Hyperspace travel provides time for reflection. The ship carrying Ulic, K, and Nomi toward Onderon hums with the familiar vibration of faster-than-light travel. Outside the viewport, the characteristic swirling tunnel of hyperspace creates patterns that almost seem meaningful if you stare long enough. The three Jedi sit in the common area, each processing the mission in their own way. Ulic reviews tactical holo-projections, studying every known detail of Iziz's defenses and the Beast Rider encampments beyond the walls. His mind works through scenarios, calculating optimal approaches for different situations. If this truly is manipulation by a Sith spirit, there will be a central point of influence. Find that point, sever the connection, and the artificial conflict should collapse. Simple in theory. He knows it will be far more complex in practice, but he has never encountered a problem he could not solve through determination and skill. Kai tinkers with a small device, his hands moving with practiced precision. He is building a scanner capable of detecting force resonance in objects. If Freedom Nad has bound his spirit to artifacts or locations, this scanner might identify them. Technology and the Force are not opposites in Kai's mind. They are complementary, two different ways of understanding and interacting with reality. where other Jedi rely solely on Force sensitivity, Kai augments his awareness with instruments and analysis. Nomi meditates, but her mind refuses to settle. Every time she reaches toward the Force, seeking clarity, she feels that same disturbing presence she sensed on Coruscant. It is stronger now that they are closer to Onderon, not malevolent exactly, but hungry. Ancient, patient beyond mortal comprehension. It reminds her of her husband's death, of feeling helpless as life drained from someone she loved. That memory still aches, a wound that will never fully heal. She has channeled that pain into purpose, but in quiet moments like this, the grief resurfaces. "You are troubled." Ulic's voice breaks through her meditation. He sits beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. "I keep feeling echoes of something terrible waiting for us," Nomi admits. "Not visions exactly, more like emotional impressions, fear, rage, ambition, all twisted together into something that should not exist." Ulic considers her words carefully. "Master Arca said your connection to the Force is unique. Perhaps you are sensing Freedom Nad's residual emotions, the feelings that allowed him to cheat death. The dark side feeds on negative emotions. If his spirit persists, it would be saturated with them. But it feels directed." Nomi continues, "Like those emotions are aimed at something specific, or someone specific." Kay looks up from his work. "You think Nad is waiting for particular individuals, that this whole crisis has been engineered to draw specific people to Onderon?" The question hangs in the air, unanswered, because none of them want to voice the obvious conclusion. If Freedom Nad has been waiting 4 centuries, if he engineered this conflict to attract Jedi attention, then he needs something from the Jedi who respond. Knowledge they possess, power they wield, or perhaps their very presence serves some purpose in a plan far larger than they can currently perceive. The ship's navigation system chimes, announcing their imminent return to real space. Ulic moves to the cockpit, taking the pilot's seat. Kay joins him, monitoring sensors and communications. Nomi stands behind them, one hand resting on each of their shoulders, unconsciously forming a connection through the Force. This simple gesture, this moment of unity, will become precious in the memories that follow. But now, in this moment, it feels natural. 3 Jedi, 3 friends facing unknown danger together. Onderon appears ahead of them as they drop from hyperspace. The planet is beautiful from orbit. Vast oceans, green continents, swirling cloud patterns. But there is something wrong with the way light reflects off its surface. Shadows seem too deep, too persistent. The night side is darker than it should be, as if the planet itself absorbs light rather than merely reflecting it. "I am detecting significant military activity," Key reports, studying his sensors. "Multiple engagements in progress around Iziz's perimeter. Energy weapon signatures consistent with both modern and ancient technology. Whoever is supplying the combatants has access to museum-quality armaments." Ulic plots an approach vector that avoids active combat zones. "We will land outside the main conflict areas and make contact with both sides separately. Assess the situation firsthand before revealing our presence to either faction." As they descend through Onderon's atmosphere, the scale of the conflict becomes apparent. Smoke rises from dozens of locations around Izz. The massive walls of the ancient city show recent damage, scorched sections where energy weapons struck stone that has stood for millennia. Beyond the walls, in the wilderness, they can see encampments of beast riders, organized with military precision, preparing for another assault. They land in a clearing, several kilometers from the nearest battle. The moment the ship's hatch opens, Nomi gasps. The dark side presence is overwhelming here, far stronger than she felt through the Force from distant Coruscant. It permeates the very air, seeps up from the ground. This is not recent corruption. This is decay that has been festering for centuries. Ulic ignites his lightsaber. the blue blade providing comfort through familiarity. Kasi activates his force scanner, sweeping the area. Nomi extends her awareness, trying to locate the source of the darkness. But it is everywhere and nowhere. Diffuse, as if the planet itself has been transformed into a dark side nexus. They move through the forest toward Isis. Onderon's wilderness is beautiful in a savage way. Massive trees with bioluminescent bark, flowers that release spores carrying complex pheromones, and the beasts. Creatures evolved for pure survival, adapted to one of the most hostile environments in known space. A Drexel, a dragon-like predator the size of a small starship, passes overhead. Its shadow covers them completely, a reminder that humans are not the apex predators on this world. The Beast Riders tame those things, Kay says with a mix of respect and disbelief. Cultural records indicate they use a combination of traditional animal handling techniques and limited force influence. Not enough to be considered force users, but enough to create bonds with creatures that should be impossible to control. As they approach the edge of the forest, they encounter their first Beast Rider patrol. 3 Onderonians mounted on Zekkeg, heavily armored quadrupeds with tusks capable of goring a landspeeder. The riders wear armor pieced together from beast hide and salvaged technology. They are not primitive warriors despite their appearance. Their tactics are sophisticated, their positioning strategic. The lead rider raises a hand, signaling his companions to halt. He studies the 3 Jedi with intelligent eyes. You are from off-world. Jedi, buy your weapons. The royal family did not mention requesting Republic intervention. Ulic steps forward, hands open in a gesture of peace. We come at the request of the Jedi Council, seeking to understand the source of this conflict and hopefully mediate a peaceful resolution. The Beast Rider laughs, but there is no humor in the sound. Peace? There can be no peace with those who dwell behind walls. They are corrupted, poisoned by something ancient that sleeps beneath their palace. We fight not for territory or resources. Jedi, we fight for our very souls against an enemy that wears the faces of our former brothers and sisters. Before Ulic can respond, Nomi suddenly staggers. Through the force she feels something awaken, not far away, beneath Iz's palace. Something that has been dormant stirs to full consciousness. It senses their presence, recognizes them, and it is pleased, terribly, horrifically pleased. We are expected, she whispers. We were always expected. The trap has been sprung. The prey has walked willingly into the predator's domain. And somewhere, in the depths beneath Onderon's ancient city, Freedon Nad's spirit smiles with satisfaction. 4 centuries in the making. The Beast Riders escort them to their primary encampment, a strategic position offering clear sight lines to Isis while remaining defensible against both the city's forces and the wilderness predators. The camp reveals a society far more organized than Republic intelligence suggested. Engineers work on captured military hardware, reverse engineering technology to supplement their traditional weapons. Healers tend to wounded warriors using a combination of modern medicine and ancient herbal remedies. Children practice combat forms under the supervision of veterans, learning skills necessary for survival in a world at war. The Beast Rider commander, a woman named Kira, invites them into her command shelter. Maps cover every surface, tactical projections showing troop movements and fortification weaknesses. She studies the 3 Jedi with an expression mixing hope and cynicism. The Republic ignores us for years, while the royal family grows more tyrannical. And now you send 3 Jedi. Either you grossly underestimate the threat, or you know something we do not. Ulic chooses honesty. We believe something beyond politics drives this conflict. An ancient presence, possibly connected to Freedon Nad. Kira's reaction is immediate. Her hand moves instinctively to a talisman around her neck, a warding gesture against evil. You speak the cursed name openly. Yes, Nad's poison runs deep in the royal bloodline. Every king and queen for 400 years has been touched by his teachings. They hide it well, present themselves as civilized rulers. But we who live close to the land, who maintain the old connections, we feel the corruption radiating from that palace. Kay activates his scanner, running detailed analysis of the encampment's position. These fortifications are built on sites of natural force convergence. You may not have formal Jedi training, but someone understood enough to position your defenses at points where the light side of the Force flows strongest. Our ancestors knew things the Jedi forgot, Kira responds. When you retreat to temples and meditate in gardens, you lose connection to the raw force that pulses through living worlds. We maintain those connections, and we feel when they are twisted, corrupted, turned toward darkness. Nomi reaches out through the Force, using the natural convergence points as focal lenses. The technique is instinctive, not something taught in formal training. Through this enhanced perception, she sees beyond the physical reality of Onderon. She sees the web of dark side energy connecting key locations across the planet. Threads of corruption running from the palace to ancient sites scattered throughout the wilderness. And at the center, beneath the throne room itself, a nexus of concentrated darkness that makes her Force sense recoil. There is a chamber beneath the palace, she says, her voice distant as she maintains her enhanced perception. A tomb, I think. The darkness is strongest there. Whatever Frieden Nad became after death, his essence is anchored to that location. Kira nods grimly. The royal family guards those depths, absolutely. Anyone who ventures too close disappears. We have lost scouts, spies, even family members who once served in the palace and tried to investigate. Something down there is precious to them, precious and terrible. Ulic makes a decision. Then we need to get inside the palace, find this chamber, and confront whatever Nad has become. Kira, can your people provide a diversion? Something to occupy the royal forces while we infiltrate? Before Kira can respond, an alarm sounds throughout the camp. Scouts report a major assault forming, royal forces mobilizing in unprecedented numbers. This is not a typical skirmish, but a concentrated attack meant to break the Beast Rider resistance entirely. Kira's expression hardens. They know you are here. Nad knows. This is not coincidence. The three Jedi exchange glances, a moment of silent communication through their Force bond. They came to Onderon to investigate and mediate. Now they find themselves in the middle of a battle that may have been orchestrated specifically to test them, to push them toward choices they are not ready to make. We will help defend the camp, Ulic declares. But we need information. Kira, if we fight alongside you, will you share everything you know about the palace's defenses, about Frieden Nad, about what the royal family has been doing for 4 centuries? Kira studies him for a long moment. You would risk yourselves for people you just met, for a cause you do not fully understand. We are Jedi, Nomi says simply. Where there is suffering, we serve. Where there is darkness, we bring light. This is what we do. The royal assault comes with the setting sun, timing chosen for psychological impact. Attackers emerging from twilight shadows. The force is substantial, hundreds of soldiers in ceremonial armor that somehow offers full military protection. But it is not the soldiers that concern the Jedi. It is the figures leading them. 3 warriors who move with unsettling grace, whose presence in the Force feels wrong, twisted. Dark side adepts. Kay identifies them through his scanner's readings. Not full Sith, but trained in techniques that should not exist outside ancient texts. Someone has been teaching them. The battle erupts with sudden violence. Royal forces crash against Beast Rider defenses like a wave against stone. Energy weapons illuminate the gathering darkness. Beasts roar, their riders guiding them through choreographed combat patterns, perfected through generations. And in the chaos, the 3 dark adepts advance with singular purpose. They are not here for the Beast Riders. They are here for the Jedi. Ulic meets the first Adept's charge, lightsabers clashing in showers of sparks. The Adept fights with techniques he recognizes from archive records. Ancient Sith forms, aggressive and unpredictable. Each strike carries weight beyond physical force. The dark side itself seems to empower every blow. Ulic counters with classical Jedi technique, defensive, patient, waiting for openings. But his opponent does not tire, does not slow, drawing on reserves of power that feel bottomless. Kay faces the second Adept, his analytical mind processing combat data in real time. He identifies weaknesses in his opponent's form, spots the fractional tells before each attack. But knowledge is not enough. The Adept channels raw dark side energy, blasting Kay backward with force lightning. Kay's lightsaber deflects most of the attack, but enough gets through to send pain screaming along his nerves. He rolls, comes up defensively, and realizes with cold clarity that this opponent outmatches him in pure power. Nomi confronts the third Adept, and something unexpected happens. Her unique connection to battle meditation activates instinctively. She does not consciously engage the technique. It simply emerges, her awareness expanding to encompass the entire battlefield. She feels every combatant, every movement, every intention, and through this expanded awareness, she feels the dark Adept's mind, feels the corruption, eating away at what was once a normal Onderonian. Feels the foreign presence that has hollowed out their identity and wears them like a garment. These are not warriors, she calls out to her companions. They are puppets. Something else controls them. Her realization provides the key. If these Adepts are vessels for another consciousness, then defeating the physical form accomplishes nothing. The controlling presence will simply find new hosts. She reaches deeper into the Force, following the threads of control back to their source, back to the palace, back to that chamber of concentrated darkness beneath the throne room, and there she encounters something that should not be possible. Frida Nad's consciousness, fragmented across multiple hosts, not a single spirit but pieces of himself distributed through living vessels. Each fragment contains his knowledge, his malice, his hunger for power, and she realizes the horrifying truth. He has been doing this for 400 years, spreading himself through the royal family, through their servants, through anyone who enters his tomb seeking power. The entire palace has become an extension of his will. The shock of this discovery breaks her concentration. The dark Adept she faces takes advantage, striking with enhanced speed. Nomi barely deflects the blow, the impact sending her to her knees. But in that moment of vulnerability, Ulic is there. His lightsaber intercepts the follow-up strike. Brother protects sister, the Jedi bond overcoming individual limitations. Kay, seeing his companions threatened, does something reckless. He reaches into his equipment pack and activates an electromagnetic pulse device designed to disable technology. But he amplifies it through the Force, channeling energy in ways the device was never designed to handle. The pulse explodes outward, not just electromagnetic, but carrying Force resonance. Every piece of technology in range shorts out, including the life support systems the Dark Adepts rely on. The three possessed warriors collapse, their artificially sustained bodies failing without technological assistance. As they fall, Nomi feels Frida Nad's consciousness withdraw from them, retreating back to the safety of his tomb. But not before she catches a final impression: satisfaction. Everything is proceeding exactly as planned. The royal assault breaks with the fall of the Dark Adepts. Soldiers flee in disarray, leaderless and demoralized. The Beast Riders pursue, claiming a significant victory. But the three Jedi stand amid the carnage, understanding that they have not won anything. They have simply moved deeper into the trap. Kira approaches them, respect evident in her bearing. "You fight well, Jedi. Better than I dared hope. Perhaps there is chance for us yet." But Ulic stares toward Izzy's, toward the palace that looms against the darkening sky. This was a test. Ned wanted to see what we could do, how we think, how we fight. He has been studying us. Then we must move quickly, Nomi says. Before he completes whatever preparation he has been making, we need to get into that palace tonight. Kay nods agreement, but his expression is troubled. His makeshift force weapon drained him significantly. He can feel the dark side resonance clinging to his consciousness, a residue from channeling power through technology in ways the force was never meant to flow. It would be so easy to use that technique again, so tempting to embrace efficiency over tradition. He does not mention this to his companions, does not voice the small satisfaction he felt when overwhelming power flowed through him. That would mean admitting vulnerability, acknowledging that perhaps Master Askar's warnings about corruption apply even to him. The three Jedi prepare for their infiltration, gathering intelligence from Kira, planning their approach. None of them notice the subtle changes beginning within themselves, the microscopic compromises, the tiny justifications. This is how corruption begins, not with dramatic falls and conscious choices for evil, but with small steps, each one reasonable, each one necessary, each one bringing them closer to the abyss they swore to fight. Night brings an eerie calm to Onderon. The Beast Rider camp settles into watchful rest. Sentries posted at strategic points, medical tents filled with the wounded, being tended by healers who work with quiet efficiency. Victory celebrations are muted. These warriors understand that winning a battle means little when the war's true nature remains hidden. Kira provides the three Jedi with detailed intelligence about the palace structure, guard rotations, secret passages known only to those who once served the royal family before conscience drove them to join the resistance. The infiltration itself proves surprisingly easy, too easy. Ulic leads them through maintenance tunnels that run beneath Iz's ancient walls, passages designed centuries ago for servants and supplies. The guards they encounter are minimal, their patrol patterns predictable. It feels wrong. A fortress under siege should maintain heightened security, yet they move through the palace's lower levels encountering only token resistance. They are allowing us passage, Nomi whispers as they pause in a junction between corridors. Every step we take is anticipated, permitted. Then we use their overconfidence against them, Ulic responds. But even he sounds uncertain. Strategy requires understanding your opponent's intentions, and Frieden Nad's purposes remain obscured behind layers of manipulation spanning 4 centuries. They reach the throne room through a servant's entrance, emerging behind ornate tapestries that depict Onderon's history in stylized imagery. The artwork tells a sanitized story of noble rulers bringing civilization to a savage world, but Nomi can see through the Force what the tapestries truly represent. Each generation of royalty, each depicted ruler, carries a shadow that the artist faithfully rendered without understanding its significance. The darkness has been present in every monarch, growing stronger with each succession. The throne room itself is a masterwork of ancient architecture. Vaulted ceilings rise into darkness above. Pillars carved from single pieces of stone support weight that should be impossible. And seated on the throne is Queen Amanoa, current ruler of Onderon, a woman whose beauty cannot mask the corruption radiating from her very presence. She does not seem surprised to see them. Jedi, she says, her voice carrying harmonics that are not quite natural. How predictable. The Republic sends its peacekeepers to interfere in matters they cannot comprehend. Beside the throne stands King Omina, Amanoa's husband, and supposed co-ruler. But something is profoundly wrong with him. His body is encased in a mechanical support system, tubes and wires connecting flesh to technology in ways that suggest the man is more machine than living being. His eyes, however, burn with awareness, with hunger. "We come seeking understanding," Ulic says, stepping forward with his hands open, lightsaber deactivated at his belt. The conflict between your rule and the Beast Riders serves no one. If there is a path to peace, we will help you find it." Amanoa laughs, but the sound comes from Armenia as well, perfectly synchronized. They speak in unison, their voices layering in disturbing harmony. "Peace. There is no peace. There is only power, and those strong enough to claim it. You speak of understanding, but you understand nothing. The Beast Riders are primitives clinging to outdated traditions. We offer progress, civilization, the strength to survive in a galaxy that devours the weak." Kay's scanner detects massive force resonance beneath the throne room. His readings show energy patterns consistent with ancient Sith artifacts, but on a scale far beyond anything in Jedi records. "The chamber is directly below us," he says quietly. "Whatever Freedon Nad has become, he is close." As if responding to his name, the temperature in the throne room plummets. Frost forms on stone surfaces, breath becomes visible mist, and rising from the floor between the Jedi and the throne, a spectral figure materializes, translucent, radiating dark side energy, unmistakably the spirit of Freedon Nad himself. His appearance is theatrical, designed for maximum impact, robes that seem woven from shadow, eyes that burn with 4 centuries of accumulated malice. When he speaks, his voice resonates not just in the air, but through the Force itself, making every word feel like a physical presence. "Welcome, Jedi. I have been expecting you, more than expecting. I have been preparing for your arrival since before your grandparents were born. Every event that brought you to Onderon was orchestrated. Every choice you made was anticipated. You think yourselves heroes come to save this world from darkness. In truth, you are ingredients in a ritual 400 years in the making." Nomi reaches for the Force, attempting to sense Nad's true nature, to understand how a spirit can manifest with such power. What she discovers shakes her understanding of life and death. Nad has not merely preserved his consciousness. He has transformed himself into something that exists in the space between life and death, drawing power from both realms. He is anchored to his physical tomb below, but can project his awareness through anyone who carries a fragment of his essence. "You possess Queen Amanoa," Ulic accuses. "You wear King Amanoa like a garment. How many others have you hollowed out to serve as your vessels?" "Possess?" Nad's spectral form drifts closer. "Such a crude understanding. I do not possess them. I elevate them. Through my teachings, the royal bloodline has maintained power for 4 centuries. Through my knowledge, they have survived challenges that would have toppled lesser dynasties. I offer them strength, and in return they offer me continuation." The explanation sounds almost reasonable, a partnership rather than parasitic control. But Nomi can feel the lie beneath the words. These people have no choice. Once they accept Nan's teachings, once they open themselves to his influence, they become extensions of his will. Their thoughts are his thoughts. Their desires serve his purposes. "Your manipulation ends now," Ulic declares, igniting his lightsaber. The blue blade illuminates the throne room with pure light that seems to push back the shadows. "We will sever your connection to this world and free these people from your corruption." Nad's laughter echoes through the chamber. "You truly believe it is that simple, that you can wave your lightsaber and banish 4 centuries of careful work? Oh, young Jedi, you have so much to learn about the nature of power." Queen Amanoa rises from her throne, and the transformation is immediate. Dark side energy pours from her like radiation. Her appearance shifts, beauty giving way to something ancient and terrible. She raises her hands, and Sith lightning arcs toward the Jedi. Ulic deflects the attack with his lightsaber, the energy crackling along the blade before dissipating. But the assault continues, relentless, drawing on reserves of power that a single being should not possess. Kai moves to flank, attempting to divide their opponent's attention, but King Amon's support system activates with mechanical precision. Hidden weapons deploy from his throne, energy projectors that fire concentrated blasts of force, not force with a capital F, but kinetic energy weaponized through technology. Kai dodges, his reflexes enhanced by the force, but the assault backs him against a pillar. Nomi does not engage physically. Instead, she reaches deeper into the force than she has ever dared, touching the fundamental energies that connect all living things. She can feel the web of Nad's influence spreading through the palace, through the city, like a cancer in the force itself. And she does something that later she will not be able to fully explain. She pushes. It is not a force push in the traditional sense. It is a rejection. Every connection Nad has established through the royal family, every thread of influence, every fragment of his consciousness distributed through living hosts, she touches simultaneously and severs. The effort is immense, drawing on reserves she did not know she possessed. Light erupts from her in waves, washing through the palace, burning away corruption like sunlight destroying shadow. Queen Amanoa screams. The dark side energy sustaining her dissipates, and suddenly she is just a woman, middle-aged, confused, terrified. She looks at her hands, as if seeing them for the first time. "What have I done?" she whispers. "What have I become?" King Omin's support system sparks and fails. Without Nad's power sustaining it, the machinery reveals itself for what it is. A prison designed to keep a dying man alive far beyond his natural span. Omin slumps in his throne, breathing labored, freed from possession, but facing the reality of his condition. Freedom Nad's spectral form flickers, destabilized by Nomi's attack. For the first time, uncertainty crosses his features. Impossible. You should not be capable of such power. Your training is incomplete. Your understanding rudimentary. How did you touch the fundamental force itself? But even as he speaks, his form solidifies again. The connection to his tomb below provides an anchor that Nomi's attack could not reach. "Clever," he admits. "You have freed my current vessels, forced me to withdraw into my primary anchor. You believe you have won. You believe the threat is ended." Ulic steps forward, lightsaber held in ready position. "Your influence over Onderon is broken. The royal family is free. The conflict will end." Will it? Nad's smile is terrible. Queen Amanoa is free, yes, but her mind has been shaped by my teachings for decades. King Omin breathes his last breaths, his body sustained only by machinery I designed. And beneath this throne room, in my tomb, lies knowledge that will survive this setback. Knowledge that others will seek, that others will find. You have won nothing, Jedi. You have merely delayed the inevitable. His spectral form dissipates, withdrawing completely into the tomb below. The throne room falls silent, except for Queen Amanoa's quiet sobbing and the mechanical wheeze of King Omin's failing life support. Master Arca arrives with reinforcements, Republic soldiers and additional Jedi responding to the emergency signals sent hours ago. He surveys the throne room, taking in the aftermath of confrontation. His expression is grave. "You have done well," he tells his students. Freedom Nad's immediate threat is neutralized. The royal family can be rehabilitated, taught to resist dark side influence. Ulic wants to believe his master's words, wants to accept that they have succeeded, but something feels incomplete, unfinished. Nad's final words echo in his mind. Knowledge that will survive, others will seek, others will find. The Jedi Council makes a decision. Freedom Nad's physical remains will be moved from beneath the palace to Onderon's moon, Dexon. There, in isolation, guarded by the Force itself, his tomb will be sealed. The knowledge he accumulated will be buried where none can access it. The threat, they conclude, is contained. Nomi wants to argue, wants to say that burial is not enough, that Nad's consciousness still persists, that moving his remains might be exactly what he wants. but she is exhausted from channeling such immense power. Her voice carries no strength. And who is she, a Jedi of only a few years' training, to question the wisdom of the Council? The ceremony of reburial is performed with appropriate gravity. Nad's sarcophagus is transported to Daxun and placed in a specially constructed tomb. Jedi Masters create force wards, seals that should prevent any dark side influence from escaping. Master Arca himself performs the final ritual, calling on the light side of the Force to create a barrier that theoretically will last for eternity. As they seal the tomb, as they prepare to depart Onderon, believing the crisis resolved, none of them notice the faint satisfaction rippling through the Force. None of them understand that moving Nad's remains to Daxun accomplishes exactly what 4 centuries of patience have been building toward. The moon where savage beasts evolve, the location where the strongest Force users sometimes come to test themselves, the perfect place for the right person to eventually discover what Freedom Nad truly has to teach. The Jedi leave Onderon confident in their victory. The royal family enters rehabilitation, learning to function without dark side influence. The Beast Riders lower their weapons, accepting that the immediate threat has passed. Peace returns to the planet, fragile and uncertain, but present nonetheless. And on Daxun, in a tomb sealed with the strongest force wards the Jedi can create, Freedom Nad's consciousness settles into patient waiting once more. The first phase is complete. The Jedi have been introduced to his existence. Seeds have been planted. Now comes the long game. Now comes the real work of corruption that will not target the weak but the strong, that will not seduce the fallen, but engineer the fall of the righteous. The trap is set, the pieces are in position. And somewhere far from Onderon, a young Jedi named Exar studies forbidden texts, driven by questions that have no answers in approved archives, questions that will eventually lead him to Daxun, to a tomb sealed but not silent, to knowledge that waits with inhuman patience for exactly the right mind to corrupt. On Dantooine, in the Jedi enclave surrounded by endless grasslands where Cath hounds roam, Exar cannot find peace. The enclave is designed for meditation, for contemplation. Ancient texts line the walls of the library. Masters teach students the subtle arts of the Force in chambers built to enhance connection. Yet Kuhn feels only frustration. Every question he asks receives the same fundamental answer. This knowledge is forbidden. That technique is too dangerous. These paths lead to darkness. His master Vodosios Baz watches his student with growing concern. Vodo is not human, belongs to a species called Krivaki, his multiple tentacles and unique physiology, making him distinctive among Jedi. But his wisdom transcends physical form. He has trained many Padawans, guided them to knighthood, watched them become respected Jedi serving the galaxy. Exar surpasses them all in raw potential, but potential without wisdom is dangerous. Power without restraint is corruption waiting to happen. You seek answers in prohibited archives, Vodo says, confronting Kuhn in the library as dawn breaks over Dantooine's plains. You question restrictions placed by masters far wiser than either of us. This path concerns me, Exar. Kuhn looks up from ancient texts, his eyes bright with the excitement of discovery. I seek understanding, Master. The Sith existed for millennia. They commanded powers the modern Jedi barely comprehend. Surely there is value in studying their techniques, in learning from their knowledge even if we reject their philosophy. Knowledge is not neutral, Vodo responds, his tentacles gesturing in patterns that convey emotion his face cannot express. Some truths corrupt merely by being known. The Sith did not fall because they were ignorant. They fell because they knew too much and believed themselves strong enough to remain uncorrupted. Then they were weak, Kuhn argues, his voice carrying an edge of arrogance he does not recognize in himself. True strength lies in understanding all aspects of the Force, light and dark, creation and destruction, life and death. How can we claim to serve the Force if we deliberately blind ourselves to half its nature? The argument is old, repeated across generations. Every few decades, a brilliant student arrives at these same conclusions, asks these same questions. Most accept the wisdom of their masters, trust that restrictions exist for good reason, but some do not. Some become convinced that they alone can succeed where countless others have failed, that they possess some unique quality making them immune to corruption. Vodo sees this certainty in Exar and fears for him. "Come," he says, "let me show you something." He leads Khorne to the Enclave's deepest chamber, a room few Padawans ever see. The walls are lined with objects sealed in 4 stasis fields, Sith artifacts captured over millennia, a mask that once belonged to a Dark Lord whose name has been deliberately forgotten, a holocron that whispers promises of power to anyone who approaches, a blade forged through such extreme dark side ritual that merely touching it can corrupt. These objects are sealed not to hide them, but to protect future generations from their influence, Vodo explains. Each one was carried by a Jedi who believed themselves strong enough to resist. Each one corrupted that Jedi turned protector into destroyer. The artifacts remain, innocent-looking, waiting for the next person to believe they are different. Khorne studies the sealed objects with intense focus. He does not see warnings. He sees challenges, puzzles to solve. Each artifact represents knowledge that could expand understanding of the Force. The fact that previous Jedi fell merely proves they lacked sufficient preparation, sufficient strength. He would not make their mistakes. But he says none of this aloud. He has learned that masters do not appreciate such confidence. Instead, he nods as if accepting the lesson. "I understand, Master. Thank you for trusting me with this knowledge." Vodo wants to believe his student, wants to trust that the lesson has taken root. But he feels the subtle disturbance in the Force that suggests otherwise. Still, what can he do? Exar has broken no rules, committed no transgressions. He asks questions, debates philosophy, pushes boundaries intellectually. These are not crimes, not yet. Days pass. Khorne continues his studies, but with greater discretion. He accesses the restricted archives through legitimate research requests, careful to document proper purposes for his investigations. He studies texts on Sith history, focusing initially on academic analysis rather than practical application. No one can fault a scholar for thorough research. But his true education comes from fragments, from implications, from reading between the lines of sanitized histories. The Jedi archives speak of the Great Hyperspace War, of how the Sith Empire was destroyed. But they mention surviving Dark Lords only in passing. Naga Sado escaped to unknown space. His fate is listed as presumed dead. Freedon Nad is recorded as a fallen Jedi who became a tyrant on Onderon, killed centuries ago. Threat ended. Except Khorne has heard rumors. Whispers among traveling Jedi about recent events on Onderon, about Freedon Nad's spirit manifesting, about his tomb being moved to the moon Dexon. The official reports are classified, but information leaks. It always does. And if Nad survived death, if his knowledge persists, then the Jedi have been lying. Not out of malice, perhaps, but through willful ignorance. They tell themselves these threats are ended because acknowledging their continuation would require uncomfortable truths. Khorne makes his decision in the quiet hours before dawn, when the Enclave sleeps and only the Force keeps watch. He will go to Dexon. He will find Freedon Nad's tomb, not to embrace darkness, but to understand it, to learn what the Sith knew that modern Jedi have forgotten. Knowledge is power, and power can be wielded for good or ill depending on the wielder's intentions. His intentions are pure, therefore he will remain pure. The logic seems flawless. He steals a ship, not violently, but through careful planning. A small personal transport on the Enclave's landing pad, fueled and ready for routine supply runs. He leaves at dawn, his departure noticed but not immediately understood as anything more than an early mission. By the time Master Vodo realizes his student is gone, Khon is already in hyperspace, following coordinates he extracted from restricted files. The journey to Onderon gives him time to consider his choices. Part of him knows this is wrong, that leaving without permission, seeking forbidden knowledge against explicit instructions, represents a betrayal of everything Jedi stand for. But another part, growing stronger, whispers that true wisdom requires courage, that the Jedi Order has become conservative, afraid, clinging to traditions that no longer serve their purpose. He is not betraying the Jedi. He is becoming what they should be, bold, unafraid, willing to seek truth wherever it leads. Onderon appears ahead, and he alters course for Dexon. The moon is savage even from orbit, dense jungle covering every surface, storm systems that never quite dissipate, and beneath it all, a dark side presence that makes his skin crawl. Any rational person would turn back. Any wise person would recognize this as a test they are not ready to face. But Exar Kun has never lacked confidence. He has never encountered a challenge he could not overcome through skill and determination. He lands in a clearing near the coordinates he extracted. The moment he opens the ship's hatch, Desun's nature becomes apparent. The air is thick with humidity and the scent of decay. Sounds of predators echo through the jungle. Creatures evolved for pure killing efficiency. A Drexel roars in the distance, the sound carrying for kilometers. This moon exists to create the strongest possible life forms through constant competition and struggle. The tomb is surprisingly easy to find. The Jedi sealed it, but made no attempt to hide its location. Perhaps they believed the moon itself provided sufficient protection. Perhaps they thought no one would be foolish enough to come here seeking dark side knowledge. The entrance is marked with Jedi symbols, warnings in multiple languages about the danger within. Force wards shimmer in the air, barriers designed to repel dark side influence. But Exar Kun is not dark side. Not yet. The wards recognize him as a Jedi, a practitioner of the light. They part before him like curtains, designed to keep evil out, but with no defense against someone who approaches as a student rather than a conqueror. This oversight, this assumption that no Jedi would willingly seek Sith teachings, becomes the first of many miscalculations. The tomb descends deep into Dyson's crust, stairs carved from stone worn smooth by time. The temperature drops as he progresses, not from cold but from the absence of life energy. This is a place where the dark side has replaced all natural force presence. Every breath feels heavy, every step requires conscious effort, but Kun pushes forward, driven by curiosity that has transformed into obsession without him noticing the transition. At the bottom, he finds the burial chamber. Frida Nad's sarcophagus rests on a raised platform. Inscriptions cover every surface, Sith language mixed with ancient Jedi warnings. The sarcophagus itself radiates dark side energy so intensely that it distorts the air around it. Normal people would flee. Wise people would seal this place and never return. Exar Kun steps closer. "I knew you would come." The voice emerges not from any physical source but directly into Kun's mind. Frida Nad's consciousness, bound to this tomb yet still capable of communication. "I have been waiting for someone like you. Someone strong enough, curious enough, foolish enough." Kun ignites his lightsaber, the blue blade providing light but little comfort. "I am not here to serve you, Spirit. I am here to learn, to understand what you knew." Nad's laughter fills the chamber, soundless yet overwhelming. "Learn, understand. Oh, young Jedi, you already serve me. The moment you decided to seek forbidden knowledge, the moment you believed yourself unique, you began serving the dark side. You just do not realize it yet." "I am strong enough to resist corruption," Khon declares, but his voice carries a tremor he cannot quite suppress. "Of course you are," Nad agrees, his tone mocking. "That is what they all believe. That is what makes you perfect. The dark side does not want weak vessels, Exar Kun. It wants the strong, the brilliant, the confident, because when the strong fall, when the brilliant are corrupted, when the confident are broken, the impact is so much greater." Khan wants to leave. Every instinct screams at him to run from this place, to return to the Jedi, to confess his transgression and accept whatever punishment follows. But his curiosity is stronger than his fear. Just a little knowledge, he tells himself. Just enough to understand. Then he will leave. Then he will return to the light. "If you truly wish to learn," Nad's voice continues, "there is a world I can show you. Korriban, homeworld of the Sith. The Valley of the Dark Lords, where the greatest Sith in history are entombed. Their knowledge is preserved there, waiting for someone worthy to claim it." "And you offer this freely?" Kun asks, suspicion mixing with eagerness. "I offer nothing," Nad responds. "I merely point the way. What you choose to do with that information is entirely your decision. Free will, Exar Kun. The Jedi claim to value it, yet they restrict your choices. I offer you freedom, true freedom to pursue knowledge wherever it may lead." The coordinates appear in Kun's mind, burned into his consciousness with perfect clarity. Korriban's location in the galaxy, exact routes through hyperspace to reach it. Information he did not possess moments ago, now as familiar as his own name, Nad's gift, or his curse. Exar Kun backs away from the sarcophagus, his lightsaber still ignited, still defensive. "I will go to Korriban," he says. "I will see for myself what knowledge exists there, but I will not fall. I will not become what you want me to become." "Then you have nothing to fear," Nad replies, and the satisfaction in his tone is unmistakable. "Go, learn, discover the truth the Jedi hide from you. And when you return, when you have seen what lies in those ancient tombs, we will speak again." Kun flees the tomb, telling himself he is leaving by choice, maintaining control. He does not recognize retreat when he performs it, does not understand that every step away from that sarcophagus is another step exactly as Nad planned. The coordinates burn in his mind. Korriban waits, and Exar Kun, brilliant and arrogant and utterly doomed, believes he is making his own choices even as he dances to a tune composed 4 centuries before his birth. Korriban materializes from hyperspace like a wound in reality. The planet is red, not the warm crimson of sunset, but the rust color of dried blood. Its surface is desert and rock, shaped by winds that have blown for millions of years across tombs that predate most galactic civilizations. This is the Sith homeworld, the birthplace of the dark side philosophy that nearly destroyed the Republic a millennium ago. Approaching it feels like descending into a predator's throat, willingly entering a place designed to consume. Exar Kun's ship enters the atmosphere, and immediately he feels the oppressive weight of accumulated malevolence. This is not like Degson, where darkness grew from isolation and savage nature. Korriban's corruption is intentional, cultivated, refined over thousands of years by beings who dedicated their entire existence to perfecting evil. The planet itself has become a dark side nexus, a location where the Force is twisted so fundamentally that merely landing here begins the process of corruption. The Valley of the Dark Lords spreads below him, a canyon system filled with massive tomb structures. Each tomb belongs to an ancient Sith Lord, erected as a monument to their power and a repository for their accumulated knowledge. The architecture is deliberately imposing, designed to inspire awe and terror in equal measure. Statues tower over the valley, depicting Sith Lords in poses of dominance and cruelty. Their stone eyes seem to follow his ship as he searches for a landing site. He sets down, near the largest tomb, a pyramid structure that dwarfs everything around it. Inscriptions identify it as the tomb of Marka Ragnos, a Dark Lord who ruled the Sith Empire at its zenith. According to fragmentary records, Ragnos was never defeated in combat, died of old age after a century of absolute rule, and was entombed with honors reserved for beings considered gods. If knowledge exists that could expand understanding of the Force, it would be here. The moment Kun steps from his ship, he understands the true nature of his mistake. Dagson was dangerous, but it was honest danger. Predators that wanted to kill you, an environment that tested your survival skills. Korriban is different. The danger here is subtle, insidious. It whispers in your mind with your own voice. It offers power while disguising the cost. It corrupts through your own desires, turning your strengths into weapons against yourself. He approaches Ragnos's tomb with his lightsaber ignited, the blue blade providing comfort through familiarity. The entrance is open, has been open for 1,000 years. Dust swirls in the air, disturbed by his passage. Shadows move in ways that do not match his movements, as if the darkness itself is alive and curious about this new visitor. The tomb's interior is vast. Chambers connect through corridors that seem to extend beyond physical dimensions. Walls are covered in Sith inscriptions, not warnings but teachings, instructions for techniques that have no place in Jedi philosophy. How to drain life from living beings to sustain yourself. How to manipulate emotions across vast distances. How to transfer your consciousness into objects, ensuring a form of immortality. Every wall is a grimoire of forbidden knowledge. Khan reads with growing fascination. The techniques are brilliant in their complexity, horrifying in their application. But he tells himself he is merely studying, merely understanding. Knowledge itself is not evil. He would never use these techniques, of course, but knowing they exist, comprehending how they function, this makes him better prepared to defend against them. The rationalization is perfect because it contains elements of truth. But truth twisted in service of corruption is more dangerous than outright lies. He finds a chamber containing crystalline data storage, technology predating the Republic itself. When he touches one crystal, information floods into his mind. Naga Sado's personal notes on Sith alchemy, the art of using the Force to reshape living tissue. Sado's experiments were monstrous, transforming sentient beings into creatures of pure aggression and loyalty, but the underlying principles are fascinating. The Force can be used not just to influence biology, but to rewrite it completely. Another crystal contains combat techniques developed by Tulak Horde, a Sith Lord renowned as the greatest lightsaber duelist in history. Toon watches holographic recordings of forms no living Jedi has seen. Aggressive patterns that sacrifice defense for overwhelming offense. Techniques that channel emotion into physical power, transforming rage into kinetic force. He finds himself mimicking the movements, his body learning even as his mind watches. Hours pass, or perhaps days. Time moves strangely in Korriban's tombs, as if the past and present exist simultaneously. Korn loses himself in learning, in discovering techniques and knowledge that expand his understanding of what the Force can accomplish. He is not falling to the dark side, he assures himself. He is simply becoming more complete, more capable. The Jedi are not wrong, precisely. They are merely limited, bound by fear masquerading as wisdom. Then he discovers Frida Nad's legacy, hidden in a chamber deeper than any other. A holocron bearing Nad's image, but not merely an information storage device. This holocron contains a fragment of Nad's actual consciousness, preserved through techniques Kun now understands, having studied the other tombs. When activated, Nad's image appears, but it is not a recording. It is a conversation. You learn quickly, Nad's image says, studying Kun with interest that feels far too alive for any recording. Quicker than any student I have observed in 4 centuries. You possess the potential to surpass even the ancient Dark Lords whose tombs you have violated with your presence. I have not violated anything, Khun responds, but his voice lacks conviction. He knows he crossed lines that should not be crossed, knows that every moment spent here corrupts him further. But he cannot stop. The knowledge is too valuable, too transformative. Your master, Vodosiosк Bas, searches for you, Nad informs him. He has contacted the Jedi Council. They plan to send a task force to retrieve you, to bring you back to face judgment for your transgressions. They will strip you of your rank, imprison you for accessing forbidden knowledge, ensure you never reach your full potential. The words strike fear into Cunan's heart. Not fear of the Jedi, but fear that they will stop him before his education is complete, before he has learned everything these tombs have to teach. What would you have me do? He asks, and does not recognize the significance of that question. He is asking a Sith spirit for guidance. He is acknowledging authority beyond the Jedi Council. There is one more world you must visit, Nad replies. Yavin 4. In the Yavin system, Naga Sadow fled there after the Great Hyperspace War. He built temples, conducted experiments, created focus points for dark side energy that persist to this day. If you wish to truly understand the Force, if you wish to become powerful enough that none can threaten you, that knowledge awaits on Yavin 4. Khun hesitates. Some part of him, growing smaller by the moment, recognizes this as the final threshold. Going to Yavin 4 means abandoning any pretense of remaining a Jedi, means fully embracing the path of the Sith. But another part, louder and more persuasive, argues that knowledge is knowledge. That understanding Naga Sadow's experiments does not require embracing his philosophy, that he can learn and remain uncorrupted because he is simply stronger than those who fell before him. The Jedi task force will arrive within days, Nad continues. If you remain on Korriban, they will capture you. Your education will end incomplete. But if you go to Yavin 4, if you claim the power waiting there, you will be beyond their reach. You will be able to teach them, to show them how much they have limited themselves through fear. The decision feels like freedom, though in truth it is the final door of his cage closing. I will go to Yavin 4, Khun declares, not to become Sith, but to complete my understanding, to become what the Jedi should be. Nad's smile is terrible in its satisfaction. Of course, you go to learn, not to embrace darkness. That is what they all tell themselves. That is what makes the fall so complete, when it finally comes. Khun leaves Korriban, his ship loaded with data crystals containing knowledge the Jedi buried and forgot. He believes he is in control, believes his intentions remain pure despite his actions. The coordinates to Yavin 4 burn in his mind alongside those Nad provided for Korriban. He does not question how Nad knew the Jedi task force was coming, does not wonder why a 400-year-old spirit is so invested in his education. These questions would require acknowledging uncomfortable truths, and Exar Khun has become expert at avoiding discomfort through rationalization. Meanwhile, in the Empress Teta system, 7 worlds prosperous through centuries of trade and culture, darkness takes root through an entirely different path. Satel and Alime Keto, heirs to vast wealth and political power, have discovered something in their family's private museum. A book, ancient beyond measure, bound in materials that predate modern metallurgy. The text is Sith, the language dead for a millennium, but somehow readable, as if the words translate themselves directly into the reader's mind. The Ketos are not force-sensitive in any traditional measure. No Jedi would identify them as having potential, but they possess something equally valuable to the dark side: ambition, boredom with ordinary power, a hunger for meaning in lives of comfortable luxury. The book offers them purpose, identity, transformation from mere aristocrats into something greater. They call themselves the Krath. taking the name from ancient Sith terminology for followers of the way. They recruit other bored aristocrats, children of wealth, who seek excitement in dangerous philosophies. What begins as intellectual exercise, as academic study of forbidden knowledge, quickly transforms into something darker. The Sith teachings in that ancient book are not passive. They are designed to corrupt, structured to lead readers step by step into embracing darkness while believing themselves merely educated. Alima proves particularly adept at Sith sorcery, at techniques using the Force without formal training. She creates illusions that fool even technological sensors, manipulates emotions in those around her, learns to drain life energy in small measures, taking years from servants and slaves to maintain her youth and beauty. Her brother Satul focuses on the martial aspects, on creating warriors enhanced through crude Sith alchemy. Neither fully understands what they are doing. Neither recognizes that they are being shaped by forces that have manipulated galactic events for millennia. The Krath grow from a dozen bored aristocrats to hundreds, then thousands. They establish temples in abandoned districts of Sinagar, the capital of the Teta system. They perform rituals copied from the ancient book, ceremonies that open them further to dark side influence, and they begin to see the existing government as obstacles to their enlightenment. Their parents, conservative politicians who maintain traditional power structures, become enemies to be removed. The coup is swift and brutal. Satul and Alima murder their own parents during a state dinner, using Sith sorcery to make it appear as if the elder Ketos died from natural causes. They seize control of the government, install Krath members in key positions, and begin transforming the Teta system into something the Republic has not seen in 1,000 years. A Sith stronghold in civilized space. The Republic responds with confusion more than alarm. The Teta system has always been peaceful, prosperous, stable. Surely this is internal politics, a generational conflict between old and young leadership. Ambassadors are sent to negotiate, to understand the new government's intentions. These ambassadors do not return. Some are killed, others are converted, exposed to Sith teachings, and transformed into Krath followers themselves. Master Arca Jeth monitors these events with growing dread. Two separate crises emerging simultaneously. His former student Exar Kun has disappeared into forbidden space, seeking dark side knowledge, and now a new Sith cult arises in the heart of civilized territory. The pattern is too precise to be coincidence. Something is coordinating these events, guiding separate individuals toward the same destination, toward the return of the Sith as a galactic power. He calls Ulic and Nomi to him, explains the situation developing in the Teta system. Kai remains on Onderon, helping to rebuild the government and ensure Freedom Nad's corruption does not resurface. The Republic is preparing a military response to the Krath, Arca tells them, but military force alone will not end this threat. These people are not soldiers. They are civilians corrupted by Sith teachings. They do not fully comprehend. We must find the source of their knowledge, sever their connection to dark side influence. Ulic studies reports from the Teta system, recognizing parallels to what they faced on Onderon. Freedom Nad's spirit influenced Onderon for centuries. Could he be behind this as well? Could his reach extend beyond his tomb? It is possible, Arca admits. Or there may be other Sith spirits, other sources of corruption we have not identified. The dark side is patient. What we face may be plans set in motion long before any of us were born. Nomi feels the weight of prophecy, of being caught in currents far larger than individual choice. Her connection to battle meditation makes her sensitive to large-scale force patterns, and she senses something massive taking shape. Events converging, separate threads weaving into a tapestry of darkness. This feels coordinated, she says. Exar Kun seeking knowledge, the Krath rising in power, even our mission to Onderon. These are not random events. Someone or something is orchestrating a symphony, and we are playing our parts without realizing it. Her words chill the room, because if she is right, if they are indeed playing predetermined roles in someone else's design, then every choice they make might be the wrong choice. Every action might serve darkness even when intended to serve light. This is the ultimate Sith victory, corrupting not through direct assault but through manipulation so subtle that the victims never realize they are being controlled. The Jedi task force assembles, Republic warships prepared for combat. Arca will lead them to the Theta system, will attempt to end the crash threat before it spreads beyond 7 worlds. Ulic and Nomi will accompany him, will face whatever Sith corruption has taken root in that once peaceful region. But as they prepare to depart Coruscant, as their fleet gathers in orbit, Exar arrives at Yavin 4. He lands near massive temple structures, emerging from dense jungle, pyramids built by the Massassi, a warrior species enslaved by Naga Sadow millennia ago. The Massassi still exist, devolved and savage, but responding to Kuhn's presence with something like recognition, as if they have been waiting for someone like him. Kuhn explores the temples, finding them far more sophisticated than Korriban's tombs. These are not burial chambers, but laboratories, places where Naga Sadow conducted experiments in reshaping reality itself through the Force. Chambers designed to focus dark side energy, altars where sacrifices were made to fuel rituals, and at the heart of the largest pyramid, a trap. He triggers it accidentally, stepping on a pressure plate hidden beneath centuries of dust. Stone walls begin closing from both sides, a mechanism designed to crush anyone who reaches this deep into the temple without proper preparation. Khan tries to escape, but the walls move too quickly. He attempts to use the Force to stop them, but they are powered by dark side energy that resists his light side techniques. Panic sets in. After everything he has learned, everything he has sacrificed, he will die here, crushed in a tomb on a forgotten moon, his potential unfulfilled. Then Naga Sadow's voice, not through a holocron, but directly into his mind. Embrace the dark side, and I will save you. Reject it, and die with your precious Jedi limitations intact. Khan has perhaps 5 seconds to decide. 5 seconds between death and damnation. He thinks of Master Vodo, of his teachings, of his warnings that this moment would come. But he also thinks of all the knowledge he has gained, of the power he has felt growing within him, of his certainty that he is different, stronger, better than those who fell before him. He can embrace the dark side temporarily, just enough to survive, and then reject it once he is safe. He can control it. He must control it. I accept, he gasps, and the transformation is instantaneous. Dark side energy floods through him like a dam breaking. Power beyond anything he imagined, raw and terrible and intoxicating. His eyes burn, literally burn, transformed by the sudden surge of dark side corruption. When the sensation fades, when the walls stop moving just millimeters from crushing him, Exar stands in the temple of Naga Sadow, fundamentally changed. His eyes are no longer the eyes of a Jedi. They have become the gold of the Sith, windows into a soul that has embraced darkness and will never again return to light. He tells himself this is temporary, that he remains in control, that he can shed this corruption once his purposes are complete. But these are the lies that every Sith Lord tells themselves, and believing them is what makes the fall complete and permanent. The Republic fleet emerges from hyperspace above the Empress Theta system, like a hammer descending on an anvil. Dozens of warships, their hulls gleaming with the authority of 1,000 years of peace, approach worlds that have suddenly turned hostile. Master Arca Jeth stands on the bridge of the flagship, Ulic and Nomi beside him, watching tactical displays that show Krath forces mobilizing to meet them. This should be a simple police action, restoring order to a system gone astray. But the 3 Jedi sense something far more sinister waiting beneath the surface. The Chrysi fleet that rises to meet them is disturbing in its composition. These are not military vessels, but civilian ships retrofitted with weapons, pleasure yachts transformed into warships, cargo haulers bristling with improvised armaments. The people crewing these ships are not soldiers but aristocrats, artists, philosophers who have traded comfortable lives for something they believe transcends mere existence. They fight with the fervor of converts, convinced their cause represents enlightenment against Republic oppression. Alima Keto commands the Krath forces from her flagship, a vessel that once served as her family's diplomatic transport, now painted in the crimson and black of Sith tradition. She stands on the bridge surrounded by fellow Krath, all of them channeling dark side energy in crude but effective patterns. They create illusions that fool Republic senses, making single ships appear as entire squadrons, making empty space seem filled with asteroids and debris. The Republic fleet finds itself fighting phantoms, wasting ammunition on targets that do not exist while real threats slip through their defenses. Master Arca feels the deception through the Force, recognizes Sith techniques being employed by people who should not know them. These are not random criminals, he says, his voice heavy with realization. They have been taught, someone provided them with knowledge that should have been lost. Ulic studies the battle patterns, trying to identify weaknesses in Krath tactics, but his attention keeps being drawn to one ship, to one presence he feels through the Force. Alima Keto herself, her mind blazing with dark side power that feels both alien and somehow familiar. She is not merely using the Force, she is channeling something older, drawing on techniques that predate the modern Sith by millennia. The battle deteriorates rapidly. Republic crews, trained for peacekeeping rather than actual warfare, struggle against opponents who fight with religious intensity. Krath ships ram Republic vessels in suicide attacks, their crews willing to die for their cause. Sith sorcery creates confusion and fear among Republic forces, illusions making them question what is real and what is deception. The engagement that should have been a quick victory becomes a grinding stalemate, then a retreat as Republic losses mount. Master Arca makes the difficult decision to withdraw, to regroup and plan a more effective approach. But as the fleet begins pulling back, the Krath press their advantage. They pursue with relentless aggression, unwilling to let their enemies escape to threaten them again. And in this pursuit, in this moment of overconfidence, tragedy strikes. Arca leads a small team to board a disabled Krath vessel, hoping to capture intelligence about their tactics and origins. Ulic and Nomi accompany him, their lightsabers cutting through bulkheads as they fight toward the bridge. They encounter Krath warriors enhanced through crude Sith alchemy, their bodies twisted into weapons, their minds reduced to pure aggression. These were once people, citizens of the Theta system, now transformed into monsters by teachings they barely understood. The boarding party reaches the bridge, finding it abandoned, except for one figure, Satul Keto, Alima's brother, waiting for them with a ceremonial blade that radiates dark side energy. He does not speak, does not negotiate. He simply attacks with speed that should be impossible for someone without Force training. The blade in his hands cuts through durasteel as if it were cloth, each strike carrying weight beyond physical strength. Master Arca engages him, his centuries of experience against Satul's raw aggression fueled by Sith teachings. The battle is brief but intense. Arca's technique is flawless, his defense impenetrable, his counters precise. But Satul does not fight alone. His sister reaches across the distance between ships, channels Sith sorcery through their blood connection, and strikes. Alima's power manifests as tendrils of dark side energy, invisible to normal sight, but devastatingly real. They bypass physical defenses, reach directly for life force itself. Master Arca feels them touch his essence, feels centuries of accumulated strength being drained away. He tries to resist, calls on decades of meditation and control, but Sith life drain is insidious. It feeds on resistance, grows stronger the more you fight it. Ulic watches in horror as his master, one of the most powerful Jedi of the age, staggers under an attack he cannot defend against. He rushes forward, trying to interpose himself between Arca and whatever invisible assault is killing him. But there is nothing to block, nothing to intercept. This is not a physical attack, but a spiritual one, and only Arca himself can resist it, and his resistance is failing. Nami reaches out through the Force, trying to sever Alima's connection, to break the link between the siblings that allows this attack. She finds the thread, that bond of blood and dark side energy, and pulls. For a moment, the assault wavers. Arca gasps, drawing breath that moments ago was impossible. But then Alima's will reasserts itself, stronger for having been challenged, and the drain intensifies. Master Arca Jeth, who has trained countless Jedi, who has guided the Order through decades of service, who represents everything the Jedi aspire to become, falls to his knees. His lightsaber deactivates, falling from nerveless fingers. He looks at Ulic with eyes that have seen too much, lived too long, and now face an end they never anticipated. "Remember," Arca whispers, his voice barely audible. "The dark side is not power. It is borrowed strength that demands payment. Do not seek to avenge me. Seek to understand. Seek to understand. Seek to preserve what we have built." Then his presence in the Force simply stops. Not fading, not diminishing, but extinguishing like a candle flame snuffed by sudden wind. Master Arca Jeth is dead, murdered by techniques that should not exist, wielded by people who should never have learned them. Ulic's world shatters. The master who trained him, who believed in him, who represented everything stable and good in his life, is gone, murdered. The rage that rises in him is not the righteous anger of justice, but something darker, more primal. It is the fury of a son watching his father die, of a student seeing his teacher destroyed, of a believer witnessing his faith torn apart. He attacks Setel Keto with abandon, his technique perfect, but his emotions wild. Each strike carries not just physical force, but anguish channeled through the Force itself. Setel, already exhausted from serving as a conduit for his sister's power, cannot match this assault. He falls, struck down by a Jedi, who in this moment is more warrior than peacekeeper. Nomi feels it happen, feels Ulic touch the dark side, not consciously but through pure emotion. Grief and rage combined create a cocktail that opens doors within the Force that should remain sealed. He has not fallen, not yet, but he has stepped onto a path that leads only one direction. She wants to pull him back, to remind him of their training, but her own grief over Arca's death leaves her paralyzed. The Krycie ship's self-destruct activates, triggered by Satel's death. The boarding party has seconds to escape. They run, carrying Arca's body between them, racing toward their shuttle as bulkheads explode and atmosphere vents into space. They make it aboard, launch just as the Krycie vessel tears itself apart in a fireball that consumes everything. Back on the Republic flagship, the survivors of the boarding party deliver their report. Master Arca Jeth is dead. The Krath possess Sith knowledge of terrifying potency. The battle is lost. The fleet retreats to Republic space, leaving the Theta system in enemy hands. It is the first major defeat the Republic has suffered in 1,000 years, and the psychological impact is devastating. Ulic stands in the medical bay, staring at his master's body prepared for funeral rites. The rage has not subsided. If anything, it has crystallized into something colder, more dangerous. Purpose: he will avenge Master Arca. He will destroy the Kryth, tear apart their organization, make them pay for what they have done, and he will do it by any means necessary. Nomi finds him there, her own grief written across her features. She reaches for him, tries to offer comfort, but Ulic pulls away. They cannot be allowed to continue, he says, his voice devoid of warmth. Traditional Jedi methods failed, diplomacy failed, direct assault failed. We need a new approach. What are you suggesting? Nomi asks, though she fears she already knows. Infiltration, Ulic replies. The Krythi recruit from within the Theta system's elite. They welcome converts, train them in Sith arts. I will join them, learn their techniques, discover their weaknesses, and destroy them from within. The plan is logical but horrifying. Pretending to embrace the dark side, using it as cover, requires touching darkness far more directly than any Jedi should. It is precisely the kind of mission that leads to corruption, where good intentions become twisted into justification for increasingly evil acts. Ulic, no. Nomi pleads. Master Arca would not want this. He said to seek understanding, not revenge. I am seeking understanding, Ulic argues. Understanding of how to defeat them. The Jedi Council will approve this mission. They have to. It is the only way to stop the Krath before they spread their corruption across the galaxy. He is right about the Council's response, presented with the reality of their defeat. With the death of one of their most respected masters, the Council reluctantly approves Ulic's infiltration plan. They surround it with conditions, safeguards, requirements that he report regularly and withdraw at first sign of corruption. But they approve it, and in doing so, they seal his fate. Kay arrives from Onderon, summoned by news of their master's death. He finds his brother changed, hardened by grief into something unrecognizable. Ulic, please, he begs, do not do this. Infiltrating the Kryth will destroy you. Master Arca's death is tragic, but throwing your life away avenging him serves no one. I am not throwing my life away, Ulic insists. I am using it to prevent others from suffering as we have. You cannot understand, Kay. You were not there. You did not watch him die, knowing you were powerless to stop it. The brothers argue, but Kai knows his words carry no weight against the magnitude of Ulic's grief. Nomi tries as well, uses every argument she can devise, but Ulic has made his decision, has received council approval, and will not be dissuaded. He prepares for his mission, studies everything known about the Krath, memorizes Sith philosophy so he can convincingly pretend to embrace it. On the night before his departure, Nomi comes to him one final time. They stand on a balcony, overlooking Coruscant's endless cityscape, lights stretching to every horizon. If you go, she says quietly, you may not come back. Not as yourself. The dark side does not release those who touch it. I am strong enough, Ulic responds, echoing words spoken by every Jedi who ever fell. My intentions are pure, that will protect me. Intentions mean nothing to the dark side, Nomi replies. It corrupts through your very virtues, turns your strengths into weapons against yourself. I am begging you as someone who loves you, do not take this path. Her confession of love should mean everything, should change his course. But Ulic's heart is encased in ice forged from grief and rage. If you love me, he says, trust me. Trust that I know what I am doing. She cannot. She knows this path leads only to darkness. But she also knows she cannot stop him, so she simply embraces him, trying to memorize the feel of holding someone she loves before he transforms into someone she may have to destroy. Ulic departs Coruscant alone, his ship heading for the Theta system, for a mission that should never have been approved. Behind him, Nomi weeps. Gay makes plans to follow, to watch over his brother, even from a distance. And Master Vodosiosbas receives word that his own student, Exar Kun, has been found on Yavin 4, transformed into something the Jedi no longer recognize. The great tragedy is unfolding exactly as ancient Sith spirits planned. Two of the Order's brightest students, both driven by noble intentions, both convinced of their own strength, both walking willingly into corruption, The Great Sith War is not beginning. It has already begun. The Jedi just have not realized it yet. Understanding arrives too late, as it so often does. Jedi scholars, prompted by the twin crises of Exar Khorne's transformation and the Krath uprising, delve into the deepest archives searching for patterns. What they discover should have been obvious from the beginning, would have been obvious if peace had not made them complacent. The fall of the ancient Sith Empire was not destruction but transformation, a tactical evolution from open warfare to patient manipulation. The Great Hyperspace War, fought 1,000 years ago, ended with Republic victory. Sith fleets were destroyed, their territories occupied, their leadership presumed dead or scattered. The Jedi celebrated. The Republic expanded into former Sith space, confident that darkness had been banished, but they failed to understand the fundamental nature of what they fought. The Sith were not merely warriors or conquerors, they were philosophers of power, students of manipulation, masters of survival through adaptation. The greatest Sith Lords foresaw their empire's military defeat. They understood that direct conflict with the Republic and Jedi Order would inevitably fail, so they chose a different path. Naga Sadow, Dark Lord of the Sith, did not die in battle as records claim. He fled to Yavin 4 with his Massassi servants, built temples designed as focusing arrays for dark side energy, and spent his final decades perfecting techniques for preserving consciousness beyond death. His physical body failed, but his knowledge survived, encoded in the very structure of his temples. Frida Nad discovered these temples centuries later. A fallen Jedi seeking power, he learned everything Sadow had preserved. But Nad was smarter than his predecessor. He did not attempt to rebuild a Sith empire through military might. Instead, he conquered a single world, Onderon, and worked subtly over decades to corrupt its culture. He embedded Sith teachings into the royal bloodline, ensured his philosophy would be passed down through generations, created a legacy that would endure centuries after his death. And when Nad's physical form failed, he, too, transformed, became a spirit anchored to his tomb, capable of influencing the living, of teaching chosen students, of continuing his work across centuries. His appearance to the Jedi on Onderon was not a revelation but an invitation. He wanted them to know he existed, wanted to draw their attention, wanted to begin the process of their corruption. The scholars trace connections that should have been investigated immediately. Every Sith resurgence throughout history follows the same pattern. A discovery of ancient knowledge, a brilliant individual convinced they can master darkness without being corrupted, a period of gathering power, then catastrophe as corruption completes, and the dark side claims another servant. The pattern has repeated dozens of times across millennia, yet each generation of Jedi believes themselves uniquely prepared to break it. Exar Kun fits the pattern perfectly. Brilliant, ambitious, convinced of his own exceptional nature, he sought knowledge the Jedi deemed forbidden, believing restrictions existed only to limit lesser minds. Frida Nad guided him to Korriban, knowing the tombs there would provide exactly the right education. Ancient techniques, philosophical frameworks, gradual normalization of dark side practices. Each tomb Kun explored made the next seem less forbidden. Each technique learned made the next appear merely logical progression. Then Yavin 4, where Naga Sadow's trap waited, a test designed to force a choice between death and darkness. Khorne believed he could embrace the dark side temporarily, use its power to survive, then reject it once safe. This belief is what makes him perfect. The dark side does not want slaves who submit willingly. It wants warriors who believe they are in control, who think they are using darkness rather than being used by it. These servants are far more effective, far more dangerous, because they rationalize every evil act as serving a greater good. The Kreis uprising follows a different but complementary pattern. Satel and Alima Keto were not force-sensitive, could not be approached as Exar Kun was. but they possessed ambition, boredom, and access to resources. The Sith texts they discovered in their family museum did not appear by accident. Ancient Sith lords have had millennia to hide knowledge throughout the galaxy, to place it where the right people at the right time would find it. The book offered the Ketos everything they craved without requiring Force ability. Sith sorcery, dark side techniques simplified for use by talented amateurs. The result is a Sith cult arising in the heart of Republic territory, spreading corruption through social and political channels rather than military conquest. The Kryth recruit from the elite, from those with power and influence. Each convert brings resources, connections, legitimacy. Within months, 7 worlds have fallen to their philosophy. Within a year, they could spread to dozens more. This is how the Sith survive. Not through armies, but through ideas, philosophy, the seductive promise of power without consequence. Now the scholars understand the true scope of manipulation. Ulic Qel-Droma, one of the Order's finest knights, has proposed infiltrating the Kryth. He believes he will pretend to embrace their philosophy while remaining true to the light. But this is exactly what ancient Sith foresaw. A Jedi of exceptional ability, driven by grief and rage, voluntarily placing himself within dark side influence. The Council approved his mission because they are desperate, because traditional approaches failed, because they cannot imagine their own people becoming the threat. But patterns across history show what happens when Jedi infiltrate Sith organizations. Initially, they maintain clarity. They remember their mission, report regularly, resist corruption. But exposure to dark side philosophy is cumulative. Each day spent pretending to embrace darkness makes the next day's pretense easier. Each technique used just this once becomes simpler to justify using again. Each moral compromise, necessary for maintaining cover, erodes the foundation of who they are. The turning point comes when the infiltrator achieves success. When they gain the enemy's trust, when they acquire position and influence within the dark side organization. At this moment, they face a choice. Withdraw, reveal themselves, and destroy everything they built over months of careful work. Or continue just a little longer, achieve just a bit more, ensure the destruction is complete. Almost universally, they choose to continue, and in that choice, corruption completes its work. Ulic Qel-Droma has not yet reached this point, but scholars tracking his mission see the warning signs. His reports grow less frequent, his techniques for maintaining cover grow more extreme. He participates in Kryth raids against Republic targets, justifying it as necessary for his cover. He studies Sith texts not just to understand the enemy, but because he finds the knowledge valuable. He is not yet fallen, but he stands on a precipice, and every instinct born from grief pushes him toward the edge. Meanwhile, on Yavin 4, Exar Kun has gone far beyond infiltration into full transformation. The moment he called upon dark side power to save himself from Naga Sado's trap, his fate was sealed. The power did not merely rescue him, it rewrote him. His connection to the Force, once balanced and clear, became tainted. His perception of reality shifted. Actions that once would have horrified him now seem reasonable, even necessary. He has enslaved the Massassi using Sith alchemy to transform them from primitive beings into weapons. He tells himself this is not cruel, that he elevates them, gives them purpose. But in truth, he has stripped away their free will, reduced them to extensions of his power. He does not recognize the irony that he has become exactly what he once despised. A tyrant using living beings as tools, justifying cruelty through claims of necessity. Kun discovers Naga Sado's war machines, technology preserved in the temples for 1,000 years, battleships designed for planetary assault, weapons capable of triggering stars to go supernova, all waiting for someone with knowledge to activate them. Kun does so without hesitation, believing he will use these weapons to destroy threats to peace. He does not see that he has become the threat, that every action he takes serves darkness, regardless of his intentions. The hidden truth emerges clearly now. The ancient Sith Lords created a system of corruption so elegant that it uses the Jedi's own virtues against them. Their courage becomes recklessness. Their desire for knowledge becomes obsession. Their commitment to protecting others becomes justification for any action, no matter how dark. And once corruption begins, once a Jedi takes that first step into shadow, the momentum becomes nearly impossible to reverse. Master Vodosius Baz, studying reports about his former student, recognizes what is happening, but feels powerless to stop it. He could confront Exar Kun directly, try to reach him through their bond as master and student, but the reports make clear that Kun would not listen. He is too far gone, too convinced of his own righteousness. Confrontation would likely result in combat, master against student, and Vodo is honest enough to admit his student now surpasses him in raw power. The Jedi Council convenes in emergency session, finally grasping the scope of the crisis. Two separate groups wielding Sith power, one led by amateur sorcerers in the Empress Teta system, the other by a fallen Jedi of incredible ability on Yavin 4, and between them, Ulic Qel-Droma, a Jedi Knight growing more corrupted daily while believing himself in control. Grand Master Zim, leader of the Jedi Order, addresses the Council with grave concern. We face not merely external threats but a fundamental challenge to our understanding. The Sith have learned to survive by corrupting us, by turning our own people into their greatest weapons. If we cannot find a way to break this cycle, the Order itself may be destroyed not by external assault but by internal corruption. The debate is intense. Some masters argue for immediate military action, overwhelming force to crush both the Kryth and Exar Kun before they grow stronger. Others advocate for patience, for attempting to redeem the fallen rather than destroy them. Still others suggest withdrawal, allowing these threats to exhaust themselves through internal conflict rather than risking more Jedi falling to darkness. But Naomi Sunrider, present as a witness rather than a council member, offers a perspective born from painful experience. We cannot redeem them by force, she says. Corruption of this depth can only be reversed through choice, through the fallen one recognizing their path and deliberately turning away. Our task is not to save them, but to be ready if they seek salvation, and to stop them if they do not. Her words carry weight because she speaks from love and loss. She loves Ulic Qel-Droma, has watched him walk into darkness despite every warning. She wants to save him more than anyone, but she also understands that salvation cannot be imposed. It must be chosen, and if Ulic does not choose it, if he continues down his current path, she may be the one who must stop him. The thought breaks her heart, but she does not shy from the possibility. As the Council debates, events accelerate beyond their control. In the Teta system, Ulic's infiltration succeeds too well. Alima Keto, recognizing his power and potential, takes personal interest in him. She teaches him Sith sorcery, techniques drawn from the ancient text that started the Kryth. She also attempts to seduce him, not merely physically but spiritually. She offers partnership, power, the chance to reshape the galaxy according to their will. Ulic resists at first, remembering his mission, his purpose, but resistance grows harder each day. The techniques Alima teaches are effective, undeniably so. The power they offer is intoxicating, and the isolation from the Jedi Order, from everyone who knew him as he was, makes it easier to forget who he is supposed to be. He begins to wonder if perhaps the Krath philosophy contains truth, if perhaps the Jedi are too restrictive, too afraid of power to use it effectively. On Yavin 4, Exar Kun experiments with his newfound abilities. He uses Masasi life force to fuel rituals, draining their essence to power greater and greater feats. He does not see them as people anymore. They are tools, resources, means to an end. This transformation in perspective marks the completion of his fall, when you stop seeing other beings as individuals deserving respect and begin viewing them as objects to be used. You have embraced the fundamental philosophy of the Sith. And across the galaxy, in tombs and temples and forgotten places, ancient Sith spirits watch with satisfaction. Their plan, centuries in the making, approaches fruition. Two powerful Force users, both fallen, both commanding resources and followers, both unaware that they are dancing to a tune composed long before their birth. Soon they will meet. Soon they will recognize in each other the partnership that could reshape the galaxy. And when that meeting occurs, when they formally embrace the Sith legacy, the golden age of the Sith will truly return. The call goes out across the galaxy to every Jedi temple, every enclave, every master in the field. Return to Coruscant. The Order faces a crisis that demands collective wisdom, the gathering of knowledge from across centuries of tradition. Ships arrive from distant worlds, bringing masters who have spent decades in isolation, studying specific aspects of the Force. Ancient Jedi, some over 400 years old, emerge from meditation retreats to share their experience. The Great Library is opened completely, even restricted sections made available, because the threat demands understanding every tool at their disposal. Master Vodosiask Bas stands before the assembled council, his multiple tentacles expressing the body language of his species in gestures that convey deep sorrow. He shares everything about Exar Kun's training, every conversation that hinted at his student's eventual fall. I saw the signs, he admits, his voice heavy with self-recrimination. The questions that pushed too hard against boundaries, the certainty that he alone could master knowledge that corrupted others. I warned him, but warnings without understanding carry no weight. I failed to make him comprehend that confidence itself is the dark side's greatest tool. The council listens without judgment. They understand that hindsight reveals what presence obscures. Every master in the room has trained students who asked dangerous questions, who pushed against restrictions. Most were guided back to safety, but some, the brilliant ones, the exceptional ones, slipped through because their very exceptionalism made them believe normal rules did not apply. An ancient master named Oru, a Selegian existing in a cyanogen atmosphere contained within a mobile tank, shares knowledge from the last major Sith conflict. The Great Hyperspace War taught us that the Sith survived through patience, his translated thoughts convey. We believed military victory meant true victory. We were wrong. The Sith's greatest strength is not power but persistence. They plant seeds across centuries waiting for conditions to align, for the right vessels to appear. What we face now was planned before any of us were born. Nomi Sunrider presents her analysis of the Kryth, information gathered from Republic intelligence and her own Force perceptions. They are not merely a cult but a social movement. They offer meaning to lives of comfortable emptiness, purpose to those who have everything except significance. Fighting them with military force alone will fail because we cannot kill an idea. We must offer a better idea, a purpose that serves light instead of darkness. But the question remains how to reach Ulic Qel-Droma before his infiltration becomes his identity. Nomi volunteers to lead a rescue mission, to extract him from the Kryth before corruption completes. Kay immediately joins her, determined to save his brother regardless of risk. They assemble a small strike team, Jedi chosen for their resistance to dark side influence, for their ability to maintain clarity in corrupted environments. The plan is straightforward. Infiltrate Sinagar, the Kryth capital, locate Ulic, and extract him, whether he wants to leave or not. They will use the Force to suppress his resistance if necessary, bring him back to Coruscant in stasis, allow masters to cleanse whatever corruption has taken root. It is kidnapping, violates Ulic's agency, but the Council approves because they understand that someone deep in dark side influence cannot make clear choices. Sometimes salvation requires forcing someone to safety against their will. Meanwhile, intelligence arrives from Yavin 4 that changes everything. Exar Kun has left the jungle moon, taking with him a fleet of ancient Sith warships and an army of Massassi warriors. His destination is unknown, but his preparations suggest imminent military action. The Jedi realize with cold dread that they may face war on two fronts. The Kryth in the Theta system, Exar Kun, with Sith technology from another age, and both growing stronger daily. Master Vodo makes a decision that he knows may cost his life. He will go to Yavin 4, will attempt to reach his former student one final time before Kun passes the point of no return. Other masters argue against this, point out that confronting Kun directly will likely result in Vodo's death. But the old master is adamant. He is my student, my responsibility. If there is any chance, however small, that hearing his master's voice will break through the corruption, I must take it. And if there is no chance, if he is truly lost, then I will do what must be done to stop him. The unspoken implication hangs in the air. Master against student, a battle that can only end in death. Vodo knows he is likely outmatched, that his student has surpassed him in raw power. But technique matters as much as power, and Vodo has centuries of experience that Kanan lacks. Perhaps that will be enough. Perhaps he can reach the young man he trained, remind him of who he was before darkness claimed him. The Council provides Vodo with every resource: ancient texts on countering Sith techniques, artifacts that resist dark side influence, recordings of Exar Kun as a young Padawan, reminders of his original nature. Vodo takes them all, knowing they may prove useless, but finding comfort in preparation. As he departs Coruscant, many masters sense they are witnessing his final journey, but none speak this aloud. Some truths are too heavy for words. Naomi's rescue team departs simultaneously, their ship heading for the Theta system on a course designed to avoid Krath patrols. KT pilots, his technical skills allowing him to plot routes through sensor gaps and detection blind spots. Naomi meditates, preparing her mind for the confrontation to come. She will face Ulic, the man she loves, and may have to fight him. The thought tears at her, but she does not falter. Love sometimes demands difficult choices. Sometimes it means saving someone from themselves, even when they hate you for it. Back on Coruscant, the remaining council members sift through centuries of accumulated knowledge, searching for any information that might help. They study ancient prophecies, most of them vague and subject to interpretation. One catches their attention, recorded by a Jedi seer 3,000 years ago. When darkness finds two vessels of light, when fallen stars unite in shadow, the ancient power shall wake, and the galaxy shall burn. But in this burning, seeds of rebirth shall be planted, and from ashes shall come understanding. The prophecy is frustratingly unclear. Does it predict inevitable catastrophe, or does it suggest that even from the worst outcomes, something valuable can emerge? Grandmaster Zim spends hours in meditation, trying to parse meaning from archaic language. He concludes that prophecies serve not as maps but as warnings. They show possible futures, paths that can be altered through wise action. The key is recognizing which actions lead to which futures. Additional intelligence arrives that deepens their concern. Republic scouts report unusual activity in the Empress Theta system. The Krythi are mobilizing their full fleet, preparing for major offensive action. Simultaneously, Exar Kun's Sith warships have been detected near the Kuros system, approaching Kryth's territory. The two threats are converging, but whether as enemies or allies remains unclear. Master Thon, an ancient Tachuan who has lived through 4 centuries of galactic history, offers a perspective born from long experience. The Sith have always sought to unite rather than divide their followers. Individual Dark Lords may conflict, may struggle for dominance, but against external threats they join forces. If Exar Kun and the Krath leadership meet, If they recognize in each other potential allies rather than rivals, we may face a unified Sith resurgence for the first time in a millennium. The possibility is terrifying. The Krath possess numbers, resources, and territory in civilized space. Exar commands ancient Sith knowledge and technology. Together, they could pose a threat the Republic is unprepared to counter. The peacekeeping forces that patrol Republic space are not a military designed for extended warfare. The last true galactic war occurred 1,000 years ago, and institutional memory of such conflicts has faded. Another master, Udbana, a Neti, who has lived over 5,000 years and witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, shares wisdom that chills the Council. I have seen this pattern before, though the players change. The Sith seduce not through promises of evil, but through offers of efficiency, of power to accomplish good more effectively. They corrupt idealists most easily, because idealists will sacrifice anything, even their own souls, for causes they believe in. Your Ulic Qel-Droma believes he infiltrates them. In truth, they are infiltrating him, using his own noble intentions as the weapon of his destruction. The words resonate because they describe not just Ulic but Exar as well. Both began with noble intentions. Kun sought knowledge to better serve the galaxy. Ulic sought to avenge his master and prevent others from suffering. Neither set out to become Sith, but the dark side does not require conscious choice. It works through incremental compromise, through small justifications that accumulate into damnation. Naomi's team reaches the Theta system using false credentials and force persuasion to bypass security checkpoints. They make their way to Sinagar, the capital city now transformed into a fortress of dark side worship. Krath symbols cover every surface. Citizens move through streets with the glazed expressions of converts, their identities subsumed into the collective identity of the cult. The transformation from prosperous trading worlds to this twisted theocracy occurred in mere months, testament to how quickly civilization can unravel when darkness takes root. They locate Ulic in the Iron Citadel, the fortress that serves as Krath headquarters. He stands beside Alima Keto, his bearing no longer that of a Jedi on a mission, but of a leader comfortable in his authority. His eyes carry hints of the corruption taking root, not yet the full gold of Sith transformation, but no longer the clear blue of his youth. He wears Sith amulets, tells himself they are merely for maintaining his cover, but the dark side energy they channel has begun reshaping his connection to the Force. He sees his brother and wants to weep. The change is visible not just in appearance, but in presence. The Ulic who left Coruscant carried light within him, a warmth that made others feel safe. This Ulic radiates something colder, harder, more dangerous. Brother, he calls out through the Force, a private communication. Please, it is time to come home, before you lose yourself completely. But Ulic's response carries irritation rather than recognition. I am exactly where I need to be. You do not understand what I have learned, what I can accomplish from this position. Go back to the Council. Tell them their plan is working better than they imagined. Nomi steps forward, her presence in the Force reaching for the connection they once shared. Ulic, we are not here to judge you. We are here to bring you home. Whatever you have done, whatever you have learned, it can be addressed. But you must leave this place before the corruption becomes permanent. Alima Keto moves closer to Ulic, possessive, recognizing a threat to her influence. Your Jedi friends do not trust you, she whispers, loud enough for all to hear. They think you weak, corruptible, unable to handle the power you have gained. But I see your strength. I see what you can become. The manipulation is transparent, but it works because it speaks to Ulic's deepest insecurities. The fear that others see him as less than he is, that his potential is not recognized, that he must constantly prove himself worthy. These fears existed long before he came to the Theta system, but the dark side amplifies them, transforms them from minor anxieties into defining characteristics. "I do not need rescue," Ulic declares, his voice carrying an edge that was never there before. "I am fulfilling my mission, and you are jeopardizing it by coming here. Leave before you force me to maintain my cover through actions neither of us want." The threat is implicit but clear. He will fight them if necessary. Will use the dark side techniques he has learned to preserve his position within the Qr'ith. And in that moment, Nomi understands with horrible clarity that they are too late. The infiltration has become his reality. The cover has become his identity. Ike refuses to accept this. He moves toward his brother, arms open, offering embrace. "Please, Ulic, remember who you are. Remember Master Arca, what he taught us, what he would want." The mention of Arca is a mistake. It triggers the grief that underlies all of Ulic's choices since that day. Master Arca is dead because the Jedi way is inadequate, he snarls, because we cling to outdated restrictions while our enemies use every tool available. I am honoring his memory by ensuring no one else dies due to our weakness. The justification is perfect in its toxicity. He has reframed his corruption as virtue, his betrayal as loyalty, his fall as ascension. This is how the dark side completes its work. Not by making you evil in your own eyes, but by making evil seem righteous. Nomi makes a decision that tears her heart apart. She reaches into the Force, not to attack, but to reveal. She strips away the layers of rationalization, the justifications, the lies Ulic tells himself. For just a moment, she forces him to see himself as he truly is, to see the corruption taking root, the darkness growing, the distance between who he was and what he is becoming. Ulic staggers under the weight of this recognition, sees himself through unclouded eyes, sees the Sith amulets he wears, the dark side techniques he employs, the company he keeps. For one brief moment, he understands that he has fallen, that everything he believed about remaining in control was delusion. But then Alima is there, her own power wrapping around him, offering comfort, offering rationalization. "She attacks you because she fears your power," Alima whispers. "She shows you darkness because she cannot comprehend the light you bring. You are not corrupted, you are evolved." The moment of clarity passes. Ulic's defenses reassert themselves, stronger for having been challenged. He embraces Alima, accepts her comfort, and in doing so completes another step in his fall. "Leave," he commands his former friends, his voice cold. "You are no longer welcome here, and if you return I will not be so merciful." Nomi's team retreats, their mission failed, carrying the knowledge that Ulic Qel-Droma is lost. They return to their ship pursued by Qr'ith forces, escape the system barely ahead of capture. The journey back to Coruscant is silent, each member of the team processing their failure. They came to rescue a brother, a friend, a loved one. They found a stranger wearing a familiar face. When they report to the Council, when they describe what they found, the full weight of catastrophe becomes clear. Ulic has not merely infiltrated the Qr'ith, he has become Qr'ith, and his considerable abilities now serve darkness, regardless of what he believes about his own intentions. Grandmaster Zinim listens to their report with an expression of profound sorrow. "Then we have lost him, and in losing him we may have given the dark side exactly what it needed. A Jedi of exceptional ability, trained in our ways, now wielding Sith power. He will be a bridge between the Qr'ith and whatever force Exar Kun represents. The two threats we feared would unite have found their connection through one of our own." The prophecy suddenly becomes clearer. Two vessels of light, now fallen, Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma. Both Jedi, both corrupted, both possessing knowledge of light and dark. When they meet, when they recognize in each other the potential for partnership, the ancient Sith power will truly return. Not through conquest, but through the corruption of the very guardians meant to prevent it. Master Vodo sends word from the edge of the Yavin system. He has arrived. He will confront his former student. The message is brief, carries no false hope. Vodo knows this is likely his final communication, but he also knows that some duties transcend survival. Some responsibilities matter more than life itself. He is a Jedi Master. Exar Kun is his student, and if there is even the smallest chance of redemption, he must take it. The Council offers prayers to the Force, asking for wisdom, for strength, for the courage to face what comes. They understand now that they are not merely fighting external enemies, but battling the consequences of their own failures, their complacency, their arrogance, their belief that peace meant safety. The Sith have taught them, through the corruption of their own students, that eternal vigilance is not paranoia but wisdom. And across the galaxy, ancient Sith spirits gather their power, prepare for the moment of culmination. Their centuries of patience are about to bear fruit. The vessels are prepared. The stage is set. Soon, very soon, the golden age of the Sith will dawn once more. Master Vodo's ship descends through Yavin 4's atmosphere, breaking through clouds that swirl with unnatural patterns. The jungle moon spreads beneath him, emerald canopy hiding temples built when the Republic was young. He feels his former student's presence immediately, a beacon of twisted power that makes his heart ache. This is not the curious Padawan he once trained. This is something else entirely. The landing platform near the Great Temple is empty. Massassi warriors watch from the shadows, their eyes reflecting animal intelligence twisted by alchemy. They do not attack. They simply observe as the old master steps from his vessel, his multiple tentacles moving with deliberate calm despite the fear coiling in his chest. Exar Kun awaits inside the temple, seated on a throne carved from obsidian. His appearance shocks Vodo. The young man's eyes burn with Sith gold. His skin carries a pallor that speaks of corruption consuming him from within. Sith amulets hang from his neck, pulsing with stolen life energy. This is not infiltration or temporary compromise. This is complete transformation. Master Kun says, his voice carrying harmonics that should not exist in human speech. How thoughtful of you to come all this way. Have you finally realized the limitations of Jedi teachings? Are you ready to learn what true power means? Vodo's tentacles droop with sorrow. I came hoping to find my student. Instead I find a stranger wearing his face. Exar, please. Somewhere inside you must remember who you were. The young man who wanted to help people, who sought knowledge to serve others. Kun laughs, and the sound echoes through chambers designed to amplify malevolence. That young man was naive, blind. The Jedi kept him ignorant, feeding him half-truths while hoarding real knowledge. But I have evolved beyond their restrictions. I command powers they cannot imagine. Power without wisdom is destruction. Vodo replies, you have learned techniques, yes. But understanding requires more than accumulating abilities. It requires knowing when not to use them. Spoken like a master afraid his student has surpassed him. Kun rises from his throne, hand moving to the lightsaber at his belt. You came here to stop me, to eliminate the threat I represent to your precious order. But you cannot. I have studied everything you taught me, and added knowledge from a dozen ancient Sith lords. You are outmatched. Vodo ignites his lightsaber, the blade casting blue light against temple walls covered in Sith inscriptions. Then I will die trying, because some duties matter more than survival. You are my student, my responsibility. If I cannot save you, I will at least ensure you harm no others. They circle each other, master and student, in a dance they have performed countless times in training. But this is no longer practice. Kun attacks first, his strikes carrying aggression that was never present in his Jedi techniques. Vodo deflects, his centuries of experience reading each attack before it fully develops. His defense is perfect, economy of motion refined through ages of study. But Qun does not rely solely on lightsaber combat. He channels power through his free hand, Sith lightning arcing toward his former master. Vodo absorbs the energy, redirecting it harmlessly into stone floors, yet the effort costs him. He is old, his connection to the Force deep but no longer swift. Qun is young, enhanced by stolen vitality, drawing on reserves that should not be possible. The battle intensifies. Lightsabers clash in patterns of light, blue against crimson. Qun's blade has changed, modified through Sith alchemy to extend and retract unpredictably. The dual-phase technology catches Vodo off guard, a strike that should miss instead slicing across his shoulder. Pain blossoms, but the old master does not falter. "You fight well," Vodo acknowledges, his breathing labored. "But technique alone does not make you strong. True strength comes from purpose, from fighting for something beyond yourself. What do you fight for, Exar? What drives you besides hunger for power?" The question strikes deeper than any blade. Qun hesitates, just for a moment, and in that hesitation, Vodo sees a flicker of the student he once knew. But then Qun's face hardens, the moment of doubt passing. "I fight for evolution, for transformation. The galaxy is stagnant, trapped in cycles that serve no one. I will break those cycles, create something new. By enslaving the Massassi, by draining their life to fuel your experiments. You do not create, Exar. You consume, like every Sith before you. You mistake destruction for progress." Qun roars, channeling rage into a force push that sends Vodo crashing against the temple wall. Stone cracks from the impact. The old master slides to the floor, his body protesting damage it can no longer easily repair. He struggles to rise, lightsaber still clutched in one tentacle. "Stay down," Qun commands, approaching with his blade raised. "You taught me everything I needed to begin my journey. For that I grant you mercy. Leave now, and I will allow you to live." Vodo pulls himself upright, his body trembling but his resolve unshaken. "I cannot leave. Not while there is breath in my body and hope in my hearts. You are my student, my failure, my responsibility." He attacks again, drawing on reserves he does not truly possess. His strikes are slower now, less precise, but they carry something Qun's attacks lack: purpose beyond self, love for the student he is trying to reach. Even as he fights him, this is what it means to be Jedi: to care more for others than for yourself, to fight not from hatred but from hope. Qun's counterattack is brutal. His blade finds gaps in Vodo's weakening defense. One strike, then another. The old master's lightsaber falls from nerveless tentacles. He collapses, his body failing, his life draining away, but he does not stop trying to reach his student. "Exar," he whispers, voice barely audible, "this power will consume you. It consumes everyone who embraces it. Please, before it is too late, remember who you were. Remember why you sought knowledge in the first place." Qun stands over his fallen master, lightsaber raised for the killing blow. For just a moment, his hand trembles. Some part of him, buried deep beneath layers of corruption, recognizes what he is about to do, recognizes that striking down the one who trained him, who believed in him, who loved him, will complete his transformation into something irredeemable. But that buried part is too weak. The corruption is too complete. Qun's blade descends, and Master Vodosios Bas becomes one with the Force. His final expression is not fear or anger, but sadness. Sadness for the student lost, for the galaxy that must face what he has become, for all the potential turned toward destruction. Exar Qun stands alone in the temple, his master's body at his feet, and feels nothing. The emptiness where guilt should exist, tells him everything. He is no longer capable of remorse, no longer capable of recognizing evil when he commits it. He has become exactly what the ancient Sith intended, a vessel of power without conscience, brilliance without wisdom, strength without purpose beyond self. Outside the temple, Massassi warriors howl, sensing their master's victory, and across the stars, in the Empress Theta system, Ulic Qel-Droma feels a disturbance. Another presence, powerful and familiar, reaching toward him through the Force. Not a Jedi, not quite Sith, something between, someone like him. The two fallen Jedi, separated by light years, begin to sense each other, and in that sensing lies the prophecy's fulfillment. Two vessels of light corrupted, two powers about to unite, the galaxy's darkest hour approaching on wings of good intentions, transformed into instruments of destruction. Space above Sinagar, tears open, not from ships emerging from hyperspace, but from something far older. Reality itself warps, bending around a presence that has not manifested in physical form for over 1,000 years. Energy crackles across the void, visible to every ship in the system, sensed by every Force user within 100 light years. The spirit of Marka Ragnas appears, towering above the battlefield like a crimson giant. His form is translucent, yet undeniably present, radiating power that makes stars themselves seem to dim. This is not mere ghost or memory. This is a Dark Lord who achieved something beyond death, who waited through centuries for this precise moment. His voice resonates through the Force, heard by all. The age of weakness ends. The age of power begins anew. Below, Exar Kun's fleet of ancient Sith warships arrives, emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. Massassi warriors fill troop transports, war droids march in cargo holds, weapons designed a millennium ago hum with reawakened power. Kun stands on his flagship's bridge, feeling Ragnas' presence, understanding without words what this moment means. In the Iron Citadel, Ulic Qel-Droma stares at the apparition above. Beside him, Alima Keto trembles, her confidence shaken by power that dwarfs her own. Satel stands frozen, finally comprehending that they have been playing with forces beyond their understanding. The Krath fleet, impressive as it seemed, appears insignificant beneath Ragnos' manifestation. Kun's ship approaches Sinagar, cutting through Krath defensive formations without hostility. He reaches out through the Force, touching another mind, another presence twisted by good intentions into something unrecognizable. Ulic feels the contact, recoils instinctively, then steadies himself. This is not an attack. This is recognition. One fallen Jedi, acknowledging another. They meet in the Citadel's throne room, surrounded by Krath leadership and Massassi guards. Exar Kun, his eyes burning gold, his presence saturated with stolen power. Ulic Qel-Droma, not yet fully corrupted, but balanced on a razor's edge, wearing Sith amulets he tells himself mean nothing. They study each other, seeing in the opposite a reflection of their own path. "You were Jedi," Kun says, statement rather than question. "I am Jedi," Ulic corrects, but his voice lacks conviction, here to end the Krath threat from within. Kun's smile is terrible in its understanding. "Is that what you believe? That you remain uncorrupted, despite everything you have done, everything you have learned? I thought the same once, until I realized that clinging to Jedi identity while wielding Sith power is simply delusion." Ulic's hand moves to his lightsaber, defensive. "You know nothing about me, nothing about my mission or my purpose. I know you watched your master die. I know grief drives you, rage sustains you, and revenge guides you. I know these because they guided me as well. We are not so different, you and I. Both brilliant, both betrayed by Jedi limitations, both willing to do whatever necessary to accomplish our goals." The words strike true, and Ulic hates that they do. He sees in Kun what he fears he is becoming. But he also sees power, certainty, freedom from doubt and restriction. Part of him recoils, part of him yearns. Alima interrupts, sensing her influence over Ulic threatened. This outsider speaks lies. You are Krath Ulic, one of us. Do not listen to Jedi propaganda. But Kun ignores her, his attention fixed on Ulic. The Jedi sent you to infiltrate, to betray these people who trusted you. How is that different from Sith deception? You use their techniques, study their knowledge, pretend to embrace their cause. The only difference is the lies you tell yourself about remaining pure. Ulic wants to argue, to defend himself. But the words ring true in ways he cannot deny. His infiltration has required lying, manipulating, committing acts he once would have considered evil. He justified each one as necessary for his mission. But when does the mission end? When does pretending to be Sith become simply being Sith? Ragnos's voice booms through the citadel, penetrating stone and steel. Approach, both of you. The vessels are prepared. The prophecy reaches fulfillment. Against his will, Ulic feels himself moving. Kun walks beside him, ascending to the citadel's highest platform, where Ragnos' manifestation dominates the sky. They stand before the ancient Dark Lord, two young men who set out to serve light and arrived at shadow through different paths. Ragnar studies them with eyes that have witnessed empires rise and crumble. Exar Kun, you sought knowledge the Jedi feared. You believed yourself strong enough to master what destroyed others. Your arrogance is perfect. Your hunger is boundless. You are worthy. The spirit's attention shifts. Ulic Qel-Droma, you sought justice for your fallen master. You believed you could touch corruption without being corrupted. Your determination is absolute. Your rage is righteous. You too are worthy. Ragnos raises spectral hands. For 1,000 years we have waited. For 1,000 years we have guided events toward this moment. Every crisis, every conflict, every temptation placed precisely to create you both. Not Sith-born, but Jedi fallen. For only those who have known light can truly understand how to extinguish it. Energy flows from Ragnos into both of them. Not possession, but transmission. The accumulated knowledge of the ancient Sith Empire, techniques refined over millennia, understanding of power's true nature. Ulic gasps as information floods his mind. Battle strategies spanning centuries. Political manipulation perfected through generations. Ways to break Jedi defenses by exploiting their own compassion. Kun receives different knowledge, Sith alchemy, in its purest form, the ability to reshape reality itself through will and power, techniques for draining entire worlds to fuel rituals, methods for preserving consciousness indefinitely, ensuring Sith teachings survive even total physical destruction. Exar Kun, Ragnos declares, his voice carrying across the system, heard by every ship, every force sensitive, every being attuned to momentous events. I name you Dark Lord of the Sith, Itu Naga Sado, successor to Freed Nad, master of all who embrace our teachings. The ancient power flows through you. Use it to reshape this stagnant galaxy. Crimson energy swirls around Kun, marking him, transforming him. What remained of the Jedi Padawan, who sought knowledge, burns away. What emerges is something the galaxy has not seen in a millennium. A Sith Lord in full power, combining ancient techniques with modern understanding, possessing knowledge of both light and shadow. Ragnos turns to Ulic. Ulic Qel-Droma, I name you apprentice to the Dark Lord, war commander of our forces, strategic mind, who will guide our conquest. You possess what Exar Kun lacks, understanding of Republic military structure, knowledge of Jedi tactics, ability to predict their responses. Together, you will be unstoppable. Ulic wants to refuse, wants to reject this coronation, to declare his loyalty to the Jedi Order, to maintain the fiction that he remains uncorrupted. But the words will not come, because Ragnos speaks truth. He has been studying Sith techniques, using their power, making decisions no true Jedi would make. He has already fallen. This ceremony simply acknowledges what he has been denying. The energy that flows into him is different from what Kun received. Not knowledge, but purpose. Clarity of vision unclouded by doubt or morality. The ability to make hard choices without hesitation, to sacrifice anything for victory, to see living beings as resources to be deployed rather than individuals to be protected. This is what command requires. This is what he has been seeking since Master Arca died. The power to ensure no one he loves suffers again. Alima and Satel kneel before the transformed pair, recognizing power that transcends their own crude understanding. The Krath, who believed themselves masters of Sith teachings, realize they are children playing with forces they never comprehended. Every technique they learned, every ritual they performed, was preparation for this moment. They were never meant to rule. They were meant to create the conditions for true Sith Lords to emerge. Ragnos begins to fade, his energy expended through manifestation and transmission, but his final words echo with weight of prophecy fulfilled. The great Sith War begins, not with armies clashing but with truth revealed. You were Jedi. The galaxy trusted you, believed in you, saw you as heroes. Now you will show them that heroes are simply villains who have not yet been tested. Go forth, conquer. Teach the Republic that peace is illusion, and power is the only truth. The spirit dissipates, leaving Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma standing before assembled Krath and Massassi forces. Kun speaks first, his voice carrying authority that needs no amplification. The Jedi Order believes itself guardian of peace. We will show them they are guardians of stagnation. The Republic believes itself civilized. We will reveal the savagery lurking beneath their laws. Ulic adds, his strategic mind already planning campaigns. We strike not at their military, but at their symbols. Jedi temples across the galaxy. Republic Senate, places they consider safe, sacred, untouchable. We teach them that nothing is safe, nothing is sacred, that their vaunted protectors cannot protect even themselves. Khan turns to Ulic, extending his hand. You understand Republic tactics. I possess ancient Sith power. Together we are more than the sum of our parts. I offer you partnership, not servitude. We reshape this galaxy as equals. Ulic hesitates one final moment. Accepting this hand means abandoning any pretense of remaining Jedi, any fiction of infiltration or noble purpose. It means embracing what he has become, acknowledging the monster he has been denying. But it also means power to ensure no one else suffers as Master Arca suffered. Power to protect through domination, to save through conquest. He takes Kun's hand. The pact is sealed. As two Dark Lords, neither born to darkness, but both arrived through paths paved with good intentions. The galaxy watches in horror as its heroes transform into its greatest threat. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council feels the disturbance, feels two presences they once knew twisted beyond recognition. Grand Master Zay speaks the words no one wants to hear. They are lost. Both of them. And now we must face what we created through our failures. Nomi Sunrider collapses, the force bond she shared with Ulic severing as he completes his transformation. She feels him dying, not physically but spiritually. The man she loved is gone, replaced by something wearing his face. Her grief is absolute, but she forces herself to stand, to prepare, because she knows what comes next. War. Not skirmishes or police actions, but true galactic war. The Sith have returned, and they return through the bodies of fallen Jedi. Every temple will be attacked, every master hunted. The knowledge they possess, The tactics they understand, the weaknesses they can exploit, will be turned against the order that trained them. Qel-Droma hears the news and refuses to believe. His brother cannot be lost, cannot have truly fallen. There must be some part of Ulic still fighting, still resisting. He will find that part, will reach it, will bring his brother home, even if it costs him everything. But hope is a luxury the galaxy can no longer afford. The Great Sith War has begun, and its opening move is a revelation more devastating than any military defeat. The Jedi's own students have become their enemies. The Republic's heroes have become its destroyers, and the ancient Sith, patient across millennia, have proven that the best way to defeat light is to corrupt it from within. The war erupts across 100 worlds simultaneously. Exar's strategy is elegant in its brutality. Strike everywhere at once. Give the Republic no time to organize, no opportunity to mount coherent defense. His knowledge of ancient Sith techniques combines with Ulic's understanding of Republic military doctrine to create campaigns that seem unstoppable. Ossus burns first. The legendary library world, repository of 50,000 years of Jedi wisdom, falls to Kuhn's personal assault. He does not come for conquest. He comes for specific holocrons, certain texts that contain knowledge even the Sith lost. His Massassi warriors tear through Jedi defenders while he searches archives with terrible purpose. Master Ood Binna, the ancient Neti guardian of Ossus, makes a choice that will echo through centuries. Rather than let accumulated wisdom fall to darkness, he transforms. His body, already tree-like, completes the metamorphosis into actual wood. His roots dive deep into Ossus soil, wrapping around the most precious holocrons, pulling them beneath the surface. He becomes a living vault, sacrificing mobility and perhaps consciousness itself to preserve what must not be lost. Kuhn finds him too late. The transformation is complete. The holocrons beyond reach, rage consumes him, and he does something unforgivable. He triggers the Cron cluster supernovas, 10 stars deliberately destabilized through Sith alchemy. The stellar radiation will render Ossus uninhabitable, will kill every living thing on the planet. If he cannot claim the knowledge, no one will. Jedi scramble to evacuate. Ships overload with refugees, scholars clutching what few texts they can carry. They watch from orbit as their world dies, as millennia of accumulated wisdom burns under radiation that turns day into searing death. Master Ood Binna remains, transformed into a gnarled tree that will somehow survive, holding his secrets until a future generation discovers them. Meanwhile, Ulic commands the Mandalorian forces he recruited through appeals to warrior honor. Mandalore the Indomitable, leader of the Neo-Crusaders, pledged his clans to the Sith cause. Together they devastate Republic fleet after fleet. Ulic's tactics are merciless. He strikes supply lines, isolates forces, turns Republic coordination against itself by feeding false intelligence through compromised channels. Coruscant itself comes under siege. Sith forces appear in the system, catch planetary defenses unprepared. Bombardment rains on the surface, targeting government centers and the Jedi Temple. The assault is meant to terrify rather than conquer, to prove that even the Republic capital is vulnerable, that nowhere is safe from Sith reach. The Jedi Temple's meditation chambers are disrupted. The constant bombardment makes concentration impossible, severs the deep force connections masters use to guide the Order. Younglings are evacuated to hidden enclaves. Knights disperse across the galaxy to protect what they can. The Order that once stood united fragments under assault. Dozens of systems fall, some through military conquest, others through subtler corruption. Kong uses Sith illusions to sow discord, makes populations see their leaders as enemies, turns neighbor against neighbor through manufactured paranoia. Entire planetary governments collapse from within, their citizens begging for Sith rule to end chaos that Sith created. But the tide begins to shift at Onderon. Ulic leads Mandalorian forces in assault on the world where his journey into shadow began. The irony is not lost on him. He returns to where Master Arca first sent them, where Freedon Nad's influence started this cascade toward disaster. Perhaps some part of him seeks closure. Perhaps he hopes to prove his transformation complete by conquering the place that witnessed his innocence. The battle rages across Onderon's wilderness. Beast Riders, remembering Jedi who once helped them, fight alongside Republic forces. Mandalorian warriors clash with defenders who refuse to yield. Ulic leads from the front, his lightsaber cutting through opponents with terrible efficiency. He has become exactly what he once fought against. A wielder of power without restraint, a commander who sees casualties as acceptable statistics. Then Mandalore the Indomitable falls, not to Republic forces, but to the savage beasts of Dexon. During fighting on the moon, a creature from the deepest jungles, something ancient and terrible, tears through Mandalorian lines and kills their leader. The Crusaders, leaderless and demoralized, falter. Their cohesion breaks. Many flee, others surrender. The military machine that gave Ulic his greatest advantage crumbles. Alima Keto, seeing opportunity in chaos, betrays Ulic. She steals Nagasado's flagship, attempts to use its superweapon to destroy both Republic forces and Ulic himself. She believes she can claim power for herself, can step into the void left by Mandalore's death. But Sith weapons are not toys for amateurs. The device activates incorrectly, triggers chain reaction in the Kron cluster beyond what even Exar Kun planned. Stars explode in cascade, Alima's ship vaporizes instantly, and entire systems are consumed. Republic forces, though battered, press their advantage. They have learned from defeat, adapted their tactics. Admiral Droma, one of few commanders who survived early engagements, coordinates fleet movements that trap Sith forces between converging battle groups. The war's momentum shifts, not decisively, but noticeably. Ulic finds himself on Coruscant, separated from his forces, pursued by Jedi he once called friends. Republic soldiers corner him in Senate chambers where laws are made, where civilization pretends to govern itself. He could fight, could kill his way to freedom, but something stops him. Exhaustion, perhaps, or recognition that victory no longer holds meaning. Nomi arrives, leading the Jedi team. She sees Ulic, sees what he has become, and her heart breaks anew. But she does not hesitate. She reaches into the Force, touches a technique so forbidden that few Jedi even know it exists. Severing, the permanent removal of Force connection. The power flows from her, wraps around Ulic's presence in the Force like chains. He feels it happening, tries to resist. But Nomi's skill, enhanced by grief and desperate love, overwhelms his defenses. She tears him from the Force itself, severs the connection that defines who he is. Silence. Absolute silence where once the Force sang. Ulic gasps, feeling the emptiness, the void where power and connection lived. His eyes, which carried hints of Sith corruption, return to their natural color. Without the Force channeling darkness through him, the corruption has nothing to sustain it. He sees clearly for the first time in months. And what he sees destroys him. The faces of those he killed, the worlds he devastated. His brother Kaisi dead by his own hand during a moment of blind rage. Master Arca, unavenged, his sacrifice wasted. Everything Ulic believed about remaining in control, about serving a greater purpose, revealed as lies he told himself to justify increasing evil. He collapses, not from physical damage, but from weight of recognition. The war he helped unleash, the deaths he caused, the order he betrayed. All of it crashes into him, and he has no Force connection to buffer the impact. Just raw human emotion confronting monstrous acts. The Republic Senate debates his fate. Execution seems just, but Nomi speaks against it. Death would be mercy. Let him live with what he has done. Let him walk the galaxy powerless, carrying the weight of his crimes. That is punishment befitting his actions. Ulic is exiled, cast out with nothing but his guilt. He wanders the outer rim, a broken man seeking some way to atone for unforgivable acts. Years later, he will find a young Force-sensitive girl, Vima Sunrider, Nomi's daughter. He will train her despite having no Force connection himself, teaching through wisdom earned from catastrophic failure. Eventually, he will die on a frozen world, killed by spacers who never knew his name. His final words will be gratitude that his suffering ends. But his redemption, however incomplete, lies in the future. Now the war continues. Exar Kun retreats to Yavin 4 as Republic forces close in. His armies are shattered, his allies dead or scattered. But he refuses to accept defeat. He has one final move, one last technique that will ensure his survival even if his body falls. The Republic fleet arrives in the Yavin system with overwhelming force. Every available ship, every Jedi Knight, every resource mobilized for final assault. They bombard the temples from orbit, land troops to hunt remaining Massassi. Jedi strike teams fight through jungle toward the great temple where Kun makes his stand. As they breach the temple, as Republic victory becomes certain, Kun performs the ritual Naga Sadao left for him. He draws on every Massassi in the temple simultaneously, drains their life force in a single horrific instant. Thousands die, their essence consumed to fuel transformation. Kun's physical body burns away, but his consciousness survives, bound to the temple itself. He becomes part of the structure, waiting in dormancy for someone to release him. The Jedi feel his presence vanish from the Force, believe him destroyed. They seal Yavin 4, declare it forbidden space. The temples stand empty, waiting. 4,000 years later, Luke Skywalker will use these same temples for his Jedi Academy. He will confront Khan's spirit, face corruption preserved across millennia, but that story belongs to a different age. The Great Sith War ends not with dramatic victory, but with exhaustion. Both sides have bled too much, lost too much. The Sith are scattered, leaderless. The Republic is devastated, its economy shattered, its people traumatized. The Jedi Order, decimated and demoralized, must rebuild from ashes. Nomi becomes Grand Master, guiding reconstruction through decades of effort. She develops new training methods, ways to recognize corruption before it completes. Future generations will study this war, will learn from failures that allowed two bright students to fall so completely. The lessons will shape the Order for millennia, influence how Jedi approach ambition, how they guard against arrogance. But the fundamental truth remains. The Sith did not defeat the Jedi. The Jedi defeated themselves through complacency, through arrogance, through believing that peace meant the end of vigilance. And somewhere in the shadows, the spirit of Darth Bane studies this war's lessons, formulates a new philosophy, the rule of two. Never again will Sith numbers lead to self-destruction. Two there shall be, no more, no less, master and apprentice, waiting with infinite patience for their moment to return. The Great Sith War ends, but the conflict between light and shadow continues, will continue as long as beings seek power, as long as good intentions pave roads to damnation, as long as the Force flows through the galaxy. Silence returns to Yavin 4. Jungle vines creep across temple stones, reclaiming what was taken. The massive pyramids slowly disappear beneath emerald growth, nature healing wounds carved by ambition and power. Above, the gas giant Yavin swirls in eternal dance, orange and cream clouds moving in patterns older than memory. The moon orbits, patient, holding its secrets. No living souls remain, only ruins, only whispers. Coruscant rebuilds. The Jedi Temple rises again, spire by spire, chamber by chamber. Younglings laugh in meditation gardens replanted with care. Archives slowly refill as survivors transcribe what they remember, what they saved, what they can recover from scattered repositories. The knowledge lost on Ossus can never be fully restored, but what remains is preserved with new understanding of its value. Master Nomi Sunrider walks these halls, her hair now touched with gray, her eyes carrying weight of all she has witnessed. She teaches a new generation, and her lessons are different from those she received. Vigilance is not paranoia, she tells her students. Confidence is not strength, and good intentions guarantee nothing. Remember Exar Kun. Remember Ulic Qel-Droma. Remember that any of us can fall if we believe ourselves immune. Underron thrives. The Beast Riders and City Dwellers, united through shared suffering, build something new. The royal palace, once corrupted by centuries of Sith influence, is cleansed and rededicated to serving the people. Children play in courtyards where Frieden Nad once whispered poison. Life continues, stubborn and beautiful. The Teta system heals slowly. The Krythi are gone, scattered or redeemed. Settle and Alima's legacy is cautionary tale parents tell children about the danger of playing with power. The ancient Sith text that started everything is destroyed, burned by Jedi who finally understand that some knowledge must not survive. The ashes scatter on Sinagar. Winds. Ossus remains dead. The radiation from Kron cluster supernovas rendered it lifeless will keep it so for millennia. But deep beneath scorched soil, Master Ud Bana sleeps as a tree, roots wrapped around precious holocrons. He will wait. 4,000 years from now, a young Jedi will sense his presence, will excavate the treasures he protected. His sacrifice will prove worthwhile, though he will never know it. On a frozen world whose name is forgotten, Ulic Qel-Droma's body lies beneath snow. His grave is unmarked, his death noted by no one important, but his final student, Vima Sunrider, carries his teachings forward. She understands what her mother perhaps could not, that redemption is possible even after unforgivable acts, that falling does not mean staying down, that the long walk back toward light, even when the Force itself is lost, matters. Mandalorians scatter across the galaxy, their crusade broken. They will remember this war, will tell stories of Mandalore the Indomitable and his alliance with Sith Lords. Future generations will debate whether he led them to glory or ruin, but they will remain, as they always do, warriors seeking purpose, waiting for the next cause worthy of their strength. The Republic Senate passes new laws, restrictions on Sith artifacts, protocols for identifying corruption, systems for monitoring Force users who ask too many dangerous questions. Some argue these measures go too far, that they restrict freedom in pursuit of safety. Others argue they do not go far enough, that only constant vigilance prevents another catastrophe. The debate continues, as it always will. Deep in unknown space, a lone figure studies holographic records. Darth Bane watches the Great Sith War's history, analyzes its failures. Too many Sith, too much infighting. Power divided becomes power wasted. He formulates new philosophy, creates structure that will serve darkness for 1,000 years. The rule of two, master and apprentice. Patience over passion, subtlety over spectacle. The Sith survive by adapting. Night falls on Coruscant. The temple's spires catch final rays of sun, glow briefly gold, then fade to shadow. In meditation chambers, Jedi sink into the Force, touching the great current that flows through all things. They feel the galaxy breathing, healing, continuing despite all attempts to break it. Stars wheel overhead, indifferent to mortal struggles. Civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless ocean. What seems catastrophic to those living through, it becomes history to those who follow. The Great Sith War joins countless conflicts before it, lessons written in blood and sacrifice. Nomi stands on a balcony, watching Coruscant's endless lights. She thinks of Ulic, of the man he was and the monster he became. She thinks of Master Arca, whose death began the cascade toward war. She thinks of her daughter training to be Jedi, carrying hope for a better future. The cycle continues. She whispers to the night, light and shadow, forever dancing. We cannot end it. We can only choose our steps. Behind her, the temple hums with life. Younglings sleeping, knights returning from missions, masters discussing philosophy and strategy. The order endures, diminished, yes, scarred, certainly, but unbroken. They will guard the galaxy, knowing now that their greatest threats come not from external enemies, but from internal corruption. 4,000 years from now, another young man will face similar choices. Anakin Skywalker will walk paths Exar and Ulic Qel-Droma walked, will make similar mistakes, will fall in similar ways. The pattern repeats because the fundamental truth remains unchanged. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Confidence without humility invites corruption, and the dark side waits eternally, patient, ready to accept anyone who believes themselves exceptional. But that is a story for another time. For now, the galaxy rests. Wars end, heroes fall, empires crumble. Yet life continues, stubborn and persistent. Children are born, love flourishes, hope endures. The Force flows through everything, connecting all beings, all moments, all possibilities. In the space between stars, ancient stories sleep, waiting to be remembered, waiting to teach new generations old lessons. The Great Sith War fades into legend, its participants becoming myth, but the truth remains, preserved for those wise enough to seek it. Some knowledge must be kept. Some secrets must be guarded. Some warnings must echo across ages. Remember the fallen Jedi who became Dark Lords. Remember that good intentions pave roads to damnation. Remember that eternal vigilance is the price of peace. The galaxy turns, the Force flows, and somewhere in shadows between light and darkness, the ancient conflict waits to begin again. Thank you for joining this journey through forgotten history. If you enjoyed exploring the Great Sith War, subscribe for more deep dives into Star Wars lore. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.